Welcome, everyone. I'm a minute or two early, but yeah, I'm going to be doing this one on the election fraud. We really have to win these midterms, or they're coming after us.
I've touched ballots, I've felt ballots. The first thing that struck me, though, wasn't the way the ballot was marked, it was how clean these ballots were. And that's where the word pristine came from, because that was the only word that came to me. I said, these are so clean, these are pristine. And I was running my hand over them, and I said to my partner, Barbara, I said, Barbara, look at these. These are almost immaculate. And then I noticed on the bubble that was for Joseph R. Biden, there was a slight eclipse, but I could tell these had been printed. And then as we went through this batch of 110, which should have only been 100, 107 of them all had this little eclipse for Biden. The next thing I saw was I started glancing down the ballot, and every vote on every ballot, both sides, even soil and conservation, was exactly the same.
What about the referendums?
They were exactly the same.
What are the chances of that?
I'd say that's a statistical impossibility. I've done this forever, and most people forget something on a ballot.
And they all voted for the same thing. Biden, Ossoff, Warnock, soil and water amendments, it was all the same.
Everything was the same, and they were obviously pre-printed. They tried to tell me the things that they were, but I knew that they weren't that. They couldn't have been adjudicated ballots. These were pre-printed ballots. This is the part that I just am so sure of.
Some of it was the ink on it was definitely from a printer.
I think some of the test ballots from
not from a pen or a marker
prior to the election made their way into some of these batches. There were 800 in this box. Out of all those, there were less than 40 for Trump and 7 for Jorgensen. And as long as I've been doing this, I have never seen odds like that.
So what's that? Somebody do the math. 96%, 95%. For Biden, I mean, that's unheard of. Plus, soil and water is the same. Amendments are the same. Down ballots the same. Council, mayor, whatever referendums. This is a statistical impossibility, right? So you saw that, and what about the other thing? They weren't folded.
Correct.
No crease.
As I ran my hand over these, there was no wear on them. Even when the ballot is sitting on your kitchen table, soil from your hands gets on there. Soil from somebody else's hands when they're opening the ballot gets on there. These were the cleanest ballots I have ever in my life seen. And
if you got to deliver them back in an envelope, Susie, and that's the law, they have to be in an envelope. Envelope has to be sealed, and you sign across the seal. Are these magic ballots? Did somebody steam clean them? How are they not folded?
That was,
I tell you, these midterms are so important.
The first thing that drew my attention was the fact that they were so, and then the paper felt different.
Not only that, we got to win in get the right people in the primaries there, you know?
There was just such an anomaly to these ballots.
Yeah.
With that, I'm very happy again to be talking to Patrick Byrne. You can go to Enemy Within docuseries to see some of his incredible work and follow him on X at Patrick Byrne. That's BYRNE. And I actually have a video here, Patrick, of 20-year Fulton County election official Susan Voiles talking about what you were just talking about, those 145,000 ballots that were not creased, that appeared to be printed. I want to go to this just so people can get the...
Yeah, I shared the link on Facebook. Facebook seems got me blocked till February 13th or something.
Full context of what you were referencing.
Because I've been doing these videos about the election.
And then get your comments on the other side. Again, this is Susan Voiles. She was a Fulton County election official for 20 years. Here's what she saw on 2020, on election day in 2020.
I've seen ballots. I've seen, I've touched ballots. I've felt ballots. The first thing that struck me, though, wasn't the way the ballot was marked. It was how clean these ballots were. And that's where the word pristine came from, because
it's still really freezing up here.
That was the only word that came to me. I said, these are so clean. These are pristine. And I was running my hand over them, and I said to my partner, Barbara, I said, Barbara, look at these. These are almost immaculate. And then I noticed on the bubble that was for Joseph R. Biden, There was a slight eclipse, but I could tell these had been printed.
Yeah, we're about
and
10
then as we went
degrees,
through
which is
this
warmer than
batch
it
of
has been, but still not
110,
warm.
which should have only been 100, 107 of them all had this little eclipse for Biden. The next thing I saw was I started glancing down the ballot, and every vote on every ballot, both sides, even soil and conservation, was exactly the same.
What about the referendums?
They were exactly the same.
What are the chances of that?
I'd say that's a statistical impossibility. I've done this forever, and most people forget something on a ballot.
And they all voted for the same thing. Biden, Ossoff, Warnock, soil and water amendments, it was all the same.
Everything was the same, and they were obviously pre-printed. They tried to tell me the things.
I'm not blocked. I can go on Facebook. I just can't stream live to Facebook, John. They blocked me until the 13th from streaming to Facebook because I'm doing these types of videos, and I'm going to keep doing this kind of stuff. You know, when need be. There's a lot coming out about the Fulton County, and actually Minnesota was cheating real bad too. They stole it there, and California, real bad in California and Illinois.
That they were,
Those
but
four
I knew
places
that
were real
they
bad.
weren't that. They couldn't have been adjudicated
I'm sure it's happening in New York too, but we just haven't caught them.
ballots. These were pre-printed ballots. This is the part that I just am so sure of. I think some of the test ballots from prior to the election made their way into some of these batches. There were 800 in this box. Out of all those, there were less than 40 for Trump and 7 for Jorgensen. And as long as I've been doing this, I have never seen odds like that.
So what's that? Somebody do the math. 96%, 95% for Biden. I mean, that's unheard of. Plus, soil and water is the same. Amendments are the same.
Well, actually, John, I shared the link to this video on my Facebook, so they're going to watch it if they click on it. You know, they cut down your people seeing it, viewability algorithms. But I have the link shared to my Facebook right now of this from Rumble.
Down ballots the same. Council, mayor, whatever the referendums. This is a statistical impossibility, right? So you saw that, and what about the other thing? They weren't folded.
Correct.
No crease.
As I ran my hand over these,
they really come after you for denying the election.
There was no wear on them. Even when the ballot is sitting on your kitchen table.
The reason for the whole January 6th stuff, and I went in December 12th, was people were upset about them stealing it back then. We knew it was a steal back then.
Well, soil from your hands gets on there. Soil from somebody else's hands when they're opening the ballot gets on there. These were the cleanest ballots I have ever in my life seen.
And if you got to deliver them back in an envelope, Susie, and that's the law.
That's
they
right.
have to be in an envelope. Envelope has to be sealed, and you sign across the seal. Are these magic ballots? Did somebody steam clean them? How are they not folded?
That was the first thing that drew my attention, was the fact that they were so, and then the paper.
Actually, on Facebook, I have a lot of friends over there, so I get a lot of messages and links shared to me from there, but I don't actually go over on there and browse or much at all.
Felt different. There was just such an anomaly to these ballots.
Again, that alone would be more than 10 times more than enough to win Georgia for Biden. Just those 140,000 votes. And again, you just hear the lady. She's just trustworthy. I trust her. How has this not been dealt with already? I mean, that's amazing.
It's not because of just that lady. There's hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people are saying this.
So what you were saying is that Tulsi Gabbard probably, as long as she just saw that those ballots still existed, that's sort of all the proof they needed. And you're sort of speculating that they did find those.
Yes, I'm confident. Well, it's kind of interesting. Those ballots have a very interesting history because
Tulsi would have to do with seeing that it was a crime, international crime.
They had to be saved for 22 months by federal law. In that 22 months, lawsuits got filed that involve those ballots, and there's a specific judicial order to take those ballots and segregate them under special lock and key. And somewhere in there, Fulton County, which is to say Atlanta, hired the two most prominent criminal defense attorneys in the state, and they defended them. And then there were a couple years of people fighting to get access to them. So first of all, the first principle we teach around the world is an election without transparency has zero
The left had all the right judges in place.
Reliability.
Right.
So it's quite strange. Citizens are supposed to be able to inspect this. Many states have constitutional provisions about it. You know, you don't get to find out how Harrison Smith voted, but you can examine all the other. It's supposed to be completely transparent. Instead, we discovered at these key junctures there was complete black box, and any lawyer who tried to help himself gets disbarred, and so forth.
Yeah, showing this as sort of like if you spoke out against the jab back then, they were banning you and kicking you off Facebook and all that.
And yeah, there was a whole master plan, and it turns out that's just what they did in Venezuela. They perfected that in Venezuela. When Hugo Chavez started rigging the elections, which he first did in 2004, a lot of the techniques he used are what we saw, and they included lawfare techniques, because Venezuela was a real country with real law and real courts and so forth. And they had this whole parallel legal effort at the same time, and that whole media effort. They had everything covered at once. So that should obviously, but the good part of this now is they've shoved in our face for 5 years all the institutions that looked at this and they found nothing. Oh, but 60 judges looked at this and they saw nothing. Our answer going forward, as once this all gets exposed, which may be in a few minutes on, I strongly suspect, on C-SPAN, once this all gets exposed, we can be the ones who say, how corrupt is the judiciary? 60 judges looked at this pig slop and they didn't see anything worth investigating. Let anyone else know how, that, so it becomes our point, not their point. You following me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is the thing about this. I mean, if you're going to take down the cabal, the Obama, Biden, I mean, this cabal, 2020 election is probably a pretty good place to start. I mean, if you can disprove that, I think that starts unraveling and it goes everywhere and it gets everybody.
I can take it down all the way back to 2015, even late 2014. I can take, I mean, not publicly, but this was all happening, certainly Thanksgiving 2015, there was a coup in motion, and I was part of it, as I've explained before. It's not a theory. I was part of it. I was tricked. I was cooperating because I thought something else, but I was part of it. So this really all started under Comey, Brennan, and Obama Thanksgiving 2015. But there's actually some evidence to me that it was running by late 2014. They were putting in place things. They were thinking this about how they were going to do this.
Even without Trump in the offing, because he hadn't announced or anything yet. This was they were going to run this sort of no matter what.
Yeah. They certainly had a Russian. I know they definitely had a Russian scandal brewing on the Republican Party. It didn't matter if it was who it was. Maria Butina told me her mission was to befriend anyone from the Cruz, Rubio, or Trump camps. Well, actually, the Hillary, Cruz, Rubio, or Trump. She was supposed to have a friends end. So whoever became president, Russia had a back channel to them. So this was all they were setting up. And that got going 4 months before Trump came down an escalator.
Yep, pretty sad. And they've been censoring since then. So they're connected to the media, too. Social media.
Ran a political action committee that was opposed and spent money opposing my client for president.
That is 100% false.
100% false?
Correct.
Thank you.
Just a few donors, huh? I got one to play later about they're trying to openly saying, therefore, illegals voting, registering them to vote. Can you see that, John, and other people? Something you have to see. I gotta get my mouse out of the way here. Yep.
Pennsylvania had over 1.5 million fraudulent votes counted, and the spread is less than 82,000 votes. These fraudulent votes come from dead voters, ballots that were received before they were supposedly mailed out, and over 330,000 electronic spikes from the voting machine. 205,000 overvotes, meaning there were 205,000 more votes than registered voters, and 682,000
more votes than there is voters, or even people.
Ballots that were illegally processed without any oversight whatsoever. More than 1.5 million votes in Pennsylvania is apparently what it took for Joe Biden to steal the state.
Huh?
Georgia has a similar phenomenon that Democrats are failing to account for. 66,248 underage voters voted in Georgia. 10,315 dead people voted. 2,500 convicted felons voted. Nearly 200,000 votes were fraudulently inserted into the vote count instantaneously. 4,500 votes come from unregistered voters. These numbers show a clear pattern that a variety of types of fraud occurred in this election and that Democrats are desperately trying to cover it up. They're going to great lengths to change the narrative of the election fraud in an effort to run out the clock to January 20th, 2020. In addition to President Trump's team, many independent groups have completed research on the fraud, and the results are staggering. Totaling across the country, millions of votes were fraudulently covered up, changed, or deleted.
And people like Steve Bannon and Giuliani that were fighting this, they put them in jail.
In favor of Joe Biden. The governors and secretaries of state have actively participated in the cover-up, removing information from their website that is normally easily accessible to the public and depriving conservatives a chance to audit or review the results are just some of their tactics. In Arizona, the final result is only a difference of 10,457, yet 36,400 non-citizens voted in the state. Arizona also experienced phantom spikes from the voting machines to the tune of roughly 50,000 additional votes going to Joe Biden. These numbers come from information that is publicly available, whether from the Secretary of State's website before the content was removed, or from the raw data that was pushed out on election night.
Unreal. Here's my friend Karen Kennedy.
I haven't seen these Democrats freak out this bad since, since Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. Oh, God almighty. And now they're freaking out again with Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard making an appearance at the FBI raid of the Fulton County Board of Elections offices just the other day, just like a 2 days ago. It's pretty amazing. The pundits, the supposed professional.
That's how they won a lot of their cases. They bankrupted people till they couldn't fight anymore. They were trying to do that to Trump. These globalists,
their little panels, they're all going around the table on CNN, and Abby Phillip and Big Mouth Bubble-Eyed Biatch, Simone Sanders and MS Now and MSDNC, and they just cannot figure out why. I just don't understand why Tulsi Gabbard would be there. That's not her department. That's not her department. She doesn't belong there.
They're investigating if there was foreign interference.
Oh, you didn't say that when you sicked the whole of government on January 6th. Political prisoners who were just event attendees. You used a whole of government approach to attack law-abiding citizens. But now you mad because President Trump is doing it? He's using partners to get all these illegals up out of here. Federal partners. Yeah. So now that he's doing it, it's a problem. Tulsi Gabbard can be any damn where she pleases. She is the director of national intelligence, asshole. She don't have to call you for permission. Who are these sanctimonious Democrat libtard cootard ass who think that we got to call them every time we sneeze or go to the bathroom? We don't. So I just want to point out the reason that these raids are successful is thanks to FBI Director Kash Patel, thanks to Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the whole of government approach, as you know, they like to use that term, it's fine, is particularly with Kash Patel and the FBI. There were no leaks. There were no leaks. I want to point that out because it's very important. There were no leaks
Probably China.
prior to that raid. They did not have time, these Fulton County officials, they did not have time to start shredding things and to start hiding things and putting them in trucks and driving them away. They didn't have time to prepare. That's how it should be.
Agree.
These members of Congress hauled Kash Patel in front of congressional representatives just the other day, asking about things that he's doing and Venezuela operations and things of that sort. And why not, including Rand Paul? I don't know what the fuck happened to him. You are nothing like your father, Ron Paul. Ron Paul was amazing. That's why they had to hurry up and move him along. You are not your father. Anyway, they hauled him in front of that panel and asked him all these dumb questions. These Democrats are so freaking stupid. Marco Rubio, that's who I'm thinking of. Marco Rubio just destroyed these dumb people. So there's no leaks. There's no leaks. These members of Congress want to be notified first. Why? So you can campaign on it. So you can tell that over to CBS or ABC or NBC or any other crank far
or give them time to go get rid of the ballots that they don't want seen.
Left Jezebel.
I'll be amazed if those ballots aren't tampered with somewhat, at least.
Sodom and Gomorrah whore media standing around at the water fountain so you can hurry up and give them an exclusive. And the operation will be completely destroyed before it even starts. We can't let you people know because you got a big mouth. You talk too much.
They should have a key, and they had a court order to open it up, but they wouldn't open it up for them. They're that stubborn. They're that afraid. They're having a fit on the left.
Homeboy, you never shut up.
That tells you you're over the target.
Y'all talk too much. You would tell. So that's why you're not notified, and you're not going to be notified because it's none of your damn business. You are not effective in your jobs anyway in Congress. That's why nothing's done. Anyway, Tulsi Gabbard made a cameo appearance at the FBI raids the other day at the Fulton County Board of Elections. This is going to expand. I am so excited. I cannot wait till they come to Colorado. The only problem is the bandits, the assholes here in Colorado already did their so-called trusted build and erased all.
Me too. Maybe some of the key stuff's gone. Maybe the other stuff. There's so many pages, though. It'd be hard to find the right ones to destroy and still plant it. I know they'll go to jail for life pretty much for destroying those, but that some of them are willing to try to do that. I tell you.
The information. That's why Tina Peters is still in prison on the 30th of January, 2026. Free Tina Peters. Absolutely. Just saying. Ooh, shit's about to get ridiculous.
I think she's right, actually, to be honest. Let me get to the next one here. Let's do this one first before we get to the
classification and rooting out weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community is a huge priority. You know more than anyone else the very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about.
In some cases, in some of these other states, especially Arizona, it seems like they have destroyed them there, John.
Paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our election. Classification and rooting out weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community is a huge priority. You know more than anyone else the very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our election.
Right there, that's what they're trying to stop. Paper ballots, voter ID, taking all the people off the voter rolls. There's some parking lots and urinals, porta potties that have people registered to vote from. That's ridiculous. There was some place that had like 60 people voting from a porta potty.
Classification and rooting out weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community is a huge priority. You know more than anyone else the very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have reputation to manipulate the results of the.
Yeah, it seems like it's repeating. Here, I'll go on to the next one.
Last week, Milwaukee election director Claire Woodall-Vogg was fired. The Democrat mayor of Milwaukee did not give a reason for firing Claire Woodall-Vogg. If you remember, this was the same city where 140,000 ballots for Joe Biden were found and counted in the middle of the night. New revelations came from this tweet, which reads, "I took her sworn deposition in a lawsuit I filed against her as Milwaukee City election clerk. She printed 64,000 ballots in the back conference room of City Hall, room 501, for the November 3rd, 2020 election."
64,000.
She had city employees and others fill some of those out.
A lot of people working for the government in our state, city governments in this case, I think, fill those out
On the 4th, 6th, and other floors of City Hall. It sounds like this woman is admitting under oath that there was cheating during the 2020 election. They're filling out
kind of, well, duh,
64,000 extra ballots for Joe Biden. Remember that Trump lost by only 20,682 votes. Just like in Georgia, this is an admission from both sides that there was cheating in the 2020 election. Now, I know that some of you are going to be worried about the next election. How are we going to prevent the Democrats from going into the back room and filling out 64,000 extra ballots for Joe Biden? There is a big difference with this next election. If you remember, the Republicans did file many lawsuits in 2020 challenging the election results. Most of these lawsuits were thrown out based on a legal concept called latches.
Caught me off guard. I wasn't ready for it.
So the second person is supposed to be checking it, right? So 3 times in 3 minutes she called out Biden. The second auditor caught it, and she said, "No, this is Trump."
It's not mandatory.
Now, that's just while I'm standing there. So does the second checker catch it every time? But this way, in 3 times in 3 minutes, from 2:09 to 2:12, she got 3 wrong.
That's just in the short time that you were.
That I was standing there. And does it get corrected every time? Because the next table I went to right after that, the only reason I left that table is because there was one where the first person was reading it off, handing it to her. She's not even looking at it, she's just putting it in.
Putting it in which set?
Whatever one the first person said. So table 17 was the first one.
This is also Fulton County.
Table 18 was where the first person would call out Biden or Trump. She passed it across the table. The other person did not even look at it and just put it wherever the first person said. That person is supposed to be auditing it, checking the second one. And so here's what happened after that. So I go and report it. They say, "Oh, we'll talk to the election officials." Blah 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 blah. They tell her, "Hey," I guess they talked to her, and so I come back by again in a few minutes. She's not doing it after they've talked to her. So I come and stand next to her, and she goes like this. like being all cutesy about it, being exactly.
Being snarky.
Yeah, so I keep walking, I turn around, I look, and she's looking at me walking away as she's getting handed more ballots. So she's watching me. That's when things start getting real shady, like really like tense and cop, because no matter where I was standing in the room, her and a couple other people started, they were calling their boss over there, pointing at me. I haven't touched anybody, I haven't talked to anybody, haven't done anything. All I'm doing is writing down, observing, telling what happened. So I see they're all talking to her, and they keep like pointing over here. Well, I make another slow lap around the room, and as I come back behind her, she says, "I'm paid by the taxpayer, and these assholes want to come in here and watch me."
Yeah, there's a reason to watch her. Jeez.
She ended up giving us 4 of these notes. They read, "Received November 4th, enter as November 2nd." These 3 ladies were entering these ballots in to the verified voter system. She also got my attention, turned around, tried to get me to see her laptop monitor, which I leaned in and saw, and she wanted me to see the signature. The signature on the screen was some huge circles like that, the signature on the ballot was little tiny vertical sticks. It wasn't even in the same solar system, definitely different signatures. And this
doesn't matter as long as
one
they get
lady
it
was
in there
trying
for
to help
Biden.
us ended up being Jesse Jacobs, the whistleblower. Onto the tabulators, I witnessed multiple times stacks of 50 ballots being put through the tabulators multiple times. If they'd have been cleared, we would have no way of knowing, because the supervisors for the tabulators made sure that the metal boxes they put the finished ballots in were so far behind the tabulators and made us stand behind those boxes. We were at least 12 feet from them and wouldn't allow us to get any closer to them.
The China virus.
About signing in and signing out, they had us sign in, not out, and said that we had plenty of us in there. Wednesday night, there were 10 of us in the room. I mean, us as Republican poll challengers, sorry. Yet, when I left, there were still people in the lobby that were being barred from coming in. Still only 10 Republican poll challengers in the room. I witnessed the military ballots being duplicated. I just thought it was strange that only Biden's name was selected, no down ballot. And I watched multiples. I don't know how many I watched, and not one of them was for Trump. I thought that was really strange, especially being military. You must know in your heart that this election was fraudulent. There's no question of it if you really are sensible. And
oh yeah, I heard Bill Gates was in the files there. I'll get back to you, John, on yours. Let me play another one.
They are in there collecting 700 boxes of ballots right now.
This is the lady that was overseeing it. So bent out of shape about this. One of the ladies ahead of her.
Obviously concerned about once the ballots leave here, what will happen to the ballots, and our lawyers are going to be working on that. They are working on that as we speak right now. Let me just speak to the larger issue about what this is really all about. This is a scare tactic. This is something that we have seen done before. This is to instill fear and chaos, something that,
No, it's getting to the bottom of you cheating and lying. That's what it is.
Officials at the national level are doing on a daily basis, and this is not a surprise for us here in Fulton County. This is meant to make people afraid to go to the polls because midterm elections are going to be so crucial.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
correcting what is going on in our country. So instead of taking care of people who are dying in the streets of Minnesota, we are here in Fulton County trying to get ballots from 2020 that have been in storage for now 6 years from when it was found that there was no problems with the 2020 election.
So much so. Here we go.
We were never able to certify those results.
So as we're sitting on election day, those 15,000 votes may or may not have counted, but after election day in the recount, do you have any way of knowing as we sit here today if those actually counted in Trump's total or Joe Biden?
Nobody's ever shown me that, and I've asked the question, and I got a shoulder shrug. I know that Coffee County certified election night, but we were never able to certify from the recount.
And could you explain to the committee the ratio that you saw of the Trump ballots that, in your opinion, were not going through, whether that be accidental or intentional? Can you explain that process?
Okay. During the recount, I was standing there. There was me, various volunteers throughout the day, as ballots were being scanned.
John, part of the problem was sort of like on Facebook and social media, they were not allowing us to question it without taking us down, not letting us get heard about questioning this. I mean, I went to the December 12th protest, and there was a January 6th one where they put a lot of people in jail for just questioning it.
And votes would jam up the system. There's a system where it does 4 ballots, and it tells you which ballot to pull and then rescan. As the day went on, the supervisor would pull those ballots that were jamming and stacking them up. At the end of the day, she made the determination to run those entire ballots. They were the QR codes, not the absentee ballots. They were the ones with the QR codes.
And is there any other counties that this happened in where they were concerned about certifying but felt compelled or forced to?
Yes, I was told by many counties that they questioned the Secretary of State, and they were told to certify.
Can you tell this committee how many counties that might be?
Your comments come up over here as well.
I talked personally 8 counties, and out of that, 6 said they were forced to certify.
Can you explain what you mean by forced to certify?
One county was 106 votes off, and the Secretary of State's office told them they must certify that number. Another county, which was a small county, was 2.3% off. They were told they had to recertify. Another county was off. They questioned it. The Secretary of State said, upload your stuff, let us look at it. They called them back and said, oh, we found a missing batch. And then they magically matched.
Maybe they are on this screen.
That's what I was told.
Okay.
I have copies of the emails later on, whatever you need. And those people were willing to do an affidavit.
Check all the counties that went to Biden. Yeah, all the ones they needed to. They stole everywhere where they needed to. You know, I'm going to play this one that's off of YouTube. This guy's pretty good. I'm going to play this one. He broke it down today about this, what was going on. Well, watch them try. He's trying to get to the point of, are you going to admit that these people want illegals voting? And they won't answer the question.
It is the ACLU's position that voting should be fair and accessible and to everyone who is eligible.
That would be a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, that's a U.S. citizen. Hello.
Did you know that there are 19 states that issue driver's licenses to non-citizens? And of those 19 states, 15 are the ones that actually do automatic voter registration for people getting driver's licenses?
First of all, it's very important that we continue the push now more than ever. Now that it's in sight, we can't let up at all. We've got to start pushing for a vote soon, very soon.
Elections coming soon, and we've got some damning testimony that just occurred in the battleground state of Arizona. Representative Alexander Collodin, he said, I asked today 3 Democrat lobbyists a very simple question. Should you have to be a citizen in order to vote in Arizona's elections? Pretty simple. But watch what happened during testimony in the Arizona House of Representatives. And once we're done with this, we're going to see that Republicans are basically at the breaking point, now launching, courtesy of Chip Roy and Senator Based Mike Lee, the Save America Act. We're talking about election integrity and what this will do in just a moment. But here's what we're dealing with in Arizona. This place is a mess. We know Fannie Willis had the water main break and all that nonsense. Here, we couldn't even get the right paper size. You know, like you go into a printer, you're like, I need an envelope. You're like, I only got 8.5 by 11. It's like, well, I need an envelope. You're like, well, why can't you just print? It's like, well, it's the wrong size. We couldn't figure that out here. And people were waiting in lines out the door to go in and try to vote for Carrie Lake. But watch the faces on each one of these people testifying. You can see the deception and the scam written right on their face. Like they all know what they're doing, but they're too cowardly to admit it.
Do you believe that people should have to be United States citizens in order to vote in Arizona's elections?
Representing an organization, and I'm speaking to this bill, I've shared those sentiments.
Does the organization you're here representing believe that people should have to be United States citizens in order to vote in Arizona's elections?
That's a question that
I agree, Gregory,
specific question
about the number of votes.
Because I don't know.
They just kept stuffing ballots until they won.
Does Lucha believe that people should have to be citizens of the United States?
You remember how many days after the election they called it? It was like on Friday, after they could stuff enough. They stuffed the ballots. They did all this Dominion stuff, and we still outvoted that. So they had to come back and even do more. what's supposed to be mail-in ballots.
In order to vote in Arizona's elections.
I believe that I don't have an answer from that directly from Lucha.
Look at
Did you hear her
And I
answer?
think certainly they believe all taxpayers should have access to democracy.
That was quite a word salad. People who are non-citizens who are working in Arizona, whether they're here legally or illegally, pay taxes.
Maybe.
Does Lucha believe that non-citizens should be able to vote in Arizona just because they pay taxes?
I don't feel comfortable making a definitive statement on.
If they really answer that honestly, they want them to vote. That's why she's not answering it.
Behalf of the organization.
Shit-eating grin right on her face.
Is it the position of the ACLU that people should have to be U.S. citizens in order to vote in Arizona's elections?
It is the ACLU's position that voting should be fair and accessible and to everyone who is eligible.
That would be a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, that's a U.S. citizen. Hello. Why can't you just say that? So she was sitting in the back. So she was like third up, right? So they hear this guy go, the first guy. And then while the first guy's testifying, this second lady's back there. She she got the answers to the tests. You know what they're going to ask you. You got the questions. So then she comes out and on her face, she's like, that's a good one. Citizenship to vote for Lucha, the illegal alien organization. You know?
Every one of them was saying that it was lobbying there and everything is non-citizens should vote. That's basically what they're saying.
Oh, not real sure on that, but it's a good question, though. It's a good, let me go ask about that. And then the last one from the ACLU comes out. She's trying poker face, but you can see the contortions right in her forehead. She's like, all right. She heard the first two go, so she went and called the morons over there at the ACLU. They're like, just say this. And then this guy at the very end, he's like, so citizens. And here's more, in fact, from Shiloh Marks. The United States processed 14 million online voter registration applications online between 22 and 24. 14 million. These online voter registration applications don't require any proof of citizenship. All you have to do is check a box. Passing the SAVE Act would require proof of citizenship to actually register to vote in federal elections. Currently, all you have to do is make an avowal. There's no real way to check.
The thing with those, Gregory, though, it's they can only make it go so far believable. They were like pre-programmed, and sometimes were outvoting their programming.
And they do that. We know they do that. That's why they're so freaked out about the SAVE Act. So here's even more from Mayor Frey. He was on with Stephen A. Smith and he said, hey, Stephen S., hey, Jacob, any idea how many illegal aliens are in your state? Maybe voting for you, maybe voting for Ilhan and voting for the Democrats who continue to make sure that they get paid.
I got to ask you this. When you talked about just illegal migrants in a city, people who cross the border illegally, that's what people call them. I want to ask you, how many do you believe you have in your city at this particular moment in time?
Doesn't care.
How many people that are undocumented are living in Minneapolis
right
now?
Undocumented. Do you have any
undocumented means
I don't
illegal.
Really have a guess as to how many presently are here. I do know that I think that the
undocumented means illegal. Quit lying.
The federal administration just got it kind of wrong.
Yeah, doesn't know, doesn't care, wants more as far as they're concerned. So we see that there's another attack vector on this, which I think is very, very welcome development. You see, this is Catherine L. Hanaway. She's the Missouri Attorney General, and she just announced the first of its kind lawsuit to stop the counting of illegal aliens in the census, saying she is suing the Department of Commerce and the Census Bureau to reverse the counting of illegal aliens in the numbers. And we know that they just count bodies, warm bodies. They don't count citizens for the census. And the number of bodies relates to the number of representatives. So the more illegals you have, the more federal representation, the bigger the federal budget that you get, and more. So you have a strong incentive to be a sanctuary city because you gobble up federal power. So here's the lawsuit. It's a big
Plus, they can claim they're all voting. Although in Philadelphia, they have more people voting than there is people.
one. And it's from the state of Missouri against Commerce and Howard Lutnick. And I'm probably pretty sure that they're on the same side of this. But you need, litigation to get the courts to issue judgments so that you can make some decisions. But she explains, we have to fix this problem. The third sentence of the Declaration of Independence summarizes the cornerstone of American political theory. It says, to secure inalienable rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. We, the people, in the Constitution comes later. In America, the people, that is, the members of the social compact, are the only legitimate source of the government's power. And I think that, who was it? Tim Kaine said something like, well, you don't have any rights unless we give them to you. Remember? We thought, what a twisted set of beliefs that is.
Yeah,
rather than coming from God,
County. I got more evidence.
They come from the government. That's not how our country works. Do you know anything? We, the people, enable you to govern, and we can retract that. That is why James Madison said that the people are the only only legitimate fountain of power, and it is from them that the constitutional charter under which several branches of government hold their power is actually derived. That's from Federalist number 49. Even Lincoln observed at the Gettysburg Address, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, in maintaining this social compact between the people and their government, nothing is more sacred than our right to representation. We scream about this all the time. We have no representation. Our founding citizens had way more representation than we had. One rep for every 50,000 people, give or take. It was dynamic. Then now it's like one rep for every 800,000. Our share of representation has gone from 1/50,000th to 1/800,000. Only citizens and non-citizen individuals permitted by the government, established permanent domicile. That's the Wong Kim Ark case, very closely connected to the birthright citizenship matter coming soon. So consistent with that understanding, no census has counted temporary
Yeah, he's going to talk about the birthright thing here soon. China had this plan to get a lot of births here in America, to put a lot of communists into the country, and they're doing a good job on that, I'll tell you that.
Sojourners, like foreigners visiting, and illegal aliens who are non-citizens present here without a lawful basis should be treated the same as temporary sojourners. They're not here permanently. They're not allowed to be legally domiciled here. They are trespassers. They never entered the United States within the meaning of the law. They trespassed in. They never got permission to come in here and set up shop, but they are. Illegal aliens can be deported at any time, as long as we follow due process, and we know that it's not the same as Article 3 due process. Same thing with temporary visa holders. We don't treat them as part of the census. This was intended by both the founders and the 14th Amendment. How could we possibly think that allowing illegal aliens to come in here and gain representation at the expense of an American, we're not getting more representatives. It's not like we got invaded by 20 million illegals and they're like, well, we need to add more seats in the House so that you actually have a representative republic, democracy.
Trump's trying to get rid of that birthright citizenship that they've been playing a game with, and he's going to talk about it shortly.
They didn't do that. So our share of the pie gets smaller for every illegal alien that comes in because it's capped, which it shouldn't be. But the framers intended to give representation to unnaturalized non-citizens who are legally permitted to indefinitely remain because they expected them to become citizens. They go back through the debates. But if you're not here legally and permanently, you can't count. And for much of American history, whether illegal aliens would be counted was a mere academic question, right? We used to not have to worry about.
Yeah, so there's some Republicans that are trying to stop them counting them in the census so that these Democrats don't get these big districts or more districts that will vote left. That's what they're doing.
About it because we didn't have invasion. We weren't being invaded. So it's like, oh, well, I mean, if you're here, then you're here legally because we're a sane country and we control our border. So we'll count you because you're not illegal because we don't allow that. Now, all of a sudden, it's a full-blown invasion after we got the social safety nets and reopened the borders. It's been floodgates ever since. And so we haven't revisited these concepts. And it was so easy to come here legally. Very few migrants even came across illegally. Notably, the federal government appears only to have begun seriously to consider whether they should be counted in 1980. It was not until 1980 that Carter decided, yeah, we'll count them. So now we have increased urgency. We have at least 15 million more.
I wonder why Carter wanted to start counting them, huh? A real leftist Democrat.
People here. Many came in illegally. Many overstayed their visas. They now make up substantial percentages of the population in some states. In California, there's almost 2 million. That's 4 Wyomings of illegal aliens, which is 10% of LA. You know, they're anger of 10% of their population of rights for take over the city. For reference, the number of illegal aliens in LA is roughly equivalent to 1/3 of Missouri's population of 6 million people. 1/3. Now, unsurprisingly, given the fact that they gain political power due to the presence of this, they now intentionally undermine federal law. Under the Supremacy Clause, they can't do that. And the Carter administration is diminishing states. Now, Missouri is filled with citizens. Okay, this is a states' rights thing too. So then California steals seats that should go to them. So we're not only getting, a loss of a representative, but states are. So to state it more bluntly,
like New York, Illinois, California, and a few others. Minnesota even is one. They have more seats than they should have.
bluntly, Carter was stealing reps from states, from American citizen states over to illegal alien states. It undermines redistricting. We're also suffering. The census determines how trillions of dollars are doled out. We know trillions are going to the illegals. There are 353 federal assistance programs that they use to disperse funds. And so Missouri says enough is enough. The Carter administration policy is unconstitutional. It violates the law. There is no rational reason to give illegal aliens any representation in our federal government at all. And we're being injured by this. And so we're suing to stop this counting before the next census in 2030. And Kate Kamak was also posting about this. She dropped this one last week about illegal aliens getting driver's licenses. She's a representative out in Florida.
Hey guys, Congresswoman Kat Kamak here. Disturbing factoid for you. Did you know that there are 19 states that issue driver's licenses to non-citizens? And of those 19 states, 15 are the ones that actually do automatic voter registration for people getting driver's licenses. Now, I personally believe in election integrity and that you should show an ID in order to vote.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's all the blue states.
Opponents to that, aka the left, say, oh, no, automatic voter registration is fine because there's this handy dandy little checkbox that people have to opt out of registering to vote. Guys, let's not let little checkboxes get in the way of ensuring the integrity of our elections. It's common sense, not controversial. You should be a citizen in order to participate in our elections. Plain and simple. So call your senators, encourage them that they co-sponsor and support the SAVE Act. It is the only way that we ensure our elections are safe and secure.
That's right. Got to get it done. Got to get it through. Here was another one, Senator Risch. He says this is just common sense. He's from Idaho, and he posted this one today.
Well, look, this is one of those issues that is just plain common sense. It shouldn't take an argument. It shouldn't take persuasion to get people to agree with this.
No,
Americans deserve to have only Americans vote in our elections. Very simply, asking someone to show up with ID is not unburdensome. If you go to the airport,
that's why they're driving
too. When you drive an automobile, you have to have ID on you. When you operate the automobile, there's so many things we do in our country that require a person to show who they are. That's not asking too much as far as an election is concerned. We have the right to demand that non-citizens do not vote in our elections. This is just common sense. It shouldn't take a law to do this, but if we have to pass a law, so be it. It's a good common sense thing to do.
Let's go. All right,
Well, look-
so Iowa is on board. We also have Ted Cruz saying we're going to get this thing through. So here is Ted explaining more.
Why isn't this getting passed? Look, I agree. I'm the original sponsor of the SAVE Act. I'm a passionate advocate of the SAVE Act. I think we ought to pass it. I think we ought to put it on the Senate floor. And I think we ought to use every bit of leverage to pressure the Democrats. We ought to force them to do a talking filibuster and make them talk till they collapse.
There might be another way, though. And here is what Mike Lee had to say about a separate strategy that doesn't require nuking the filibuster. Here is the senator from Utah.
All right, before this day comes to a close, I just wanted to wrap up a couple of things. This has been a great day for the SAVE Act. We've added so many co-sponsors, including members of Senate Republican leadership. So grateful for Senator John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, coming out in support of it and acknowledging that we're going to be voting on it. Want to wrap up a couple of things.
Nice.
First of all, it's very important that we continue the push now more than ever. Now that it's in sight, we can't let up at all. We've got to start pushing for a vote soon, very soon. The sooner we get this thing passed, the sooner it can start doing good and make sure that our November elections are protected. Secondly, accept no easy excuses. There may be some who will say, well, we're not sure.
Got to go after them on all
fronts. We're not sure
fronts.
if we can get to 60. Remember, 60 votes is not an inexorable command of any Senate rule. 60 votes is what it takes to bring debate to a close. That doesn't mean there's no way to pass legislation without 60 votes. Let me explain what I mean. Under Rule 22 of the Senate rules, every senator is entitled to speak a maximum of 2 times in the same legislative day on the same discrete legislative matter. Legislative days can be drawn out into multiple calendar days. And so everything in the Senate runs on the principle of exhaustion or unanimous consent. If you can't get unanimous consent, you wait until those who are opposed to a measure are exhausted, either physically or until they have exhausted their right under Rule 22, 2 speeches on the same matter on the same legislative day. And then you call the question. The question is called at a simple majority threshold. This is what I'm talking about when I refer to the need to end the zombie filibuster. Zombie filibuster refers to the fact that when senators aren't even required to speak, if we don't make them speak, the whole point of the filibuster is to extend and protect and prolong debate as far long as senators want to, unless or until you can get 60 votes to bring debate to a close. But it's a cheap excuse to say we're going to let them have the benefit of the filibuster without actually having to speak. So accept no imitation, accept no cheap excuses. Bottom line is, rather than simply celebrate, we've got to ramp up pressure. We've got to ramp up discussions everywhere about the SAVE Act until this thing is done. Thanks so much for your hard work on this. Let's keep it going until the SAVE Act is passed and signed into law by President Trump.
Let's go. We need to get that done. That's part of massive reform that would just be devastating for the Democrats, since they rely on rigged elections and rigged votes. But they are working overtime, as we saw in Arizona. All these various groups just digging in to try to get
the Democrats could go in without the 60-vote rule and do a lot of bad stuff too. So
access to democracy for illegal aliens. Hopefully not for long, as the Senate,
like adding some statehoods to Puerto Rico and stuff like that,
continues to barrel down. We're going to keep the pressure up here. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do.
Although it looks, I didn't mean to do that.
When I used to think about taxes,
get rid of that. I'll bring up the next one. That 60-vote rule. That 60-vote rule, though. They're saying that the Democrats, as soon as they get back in power, they're going to do it because they want to put us in jail. A lot of us.
We have a explanation why those votes.
This is 2020.
So there's no concrete, just to get on the record, there's no concrete explanation as to how those 2,700 votes were not counted by the machine in the first place?
We don't know. I mean, we can't. They're not in there anywhere. So we don't know why they didn't get scanned in there.
So have the Dominion tech
guys that have been
troubleshooting here all day been able to figure out why they weren't in there?
I think there's some base rules they can't change easily.
They're not allowed.
They got
They're not allowed to comment.
And you're not allowed to tell you right
Sorry.
It just.
But as of right now, you can also not confirm that it was a memory card or anything of that nature as well, right? Because that hasn't been confirmed, to my knowledge, by anyone here.
I don't think it was a memory card. I can almost. Do you?
I don't think it was a memory card.
So it was. We can
not
rule
much,
out memory
card.
card.
A memory card that wasn't scanned.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it seems like it's human error.
It seems like it, but what's the evidence that would indicate it would be a human error issue?
The ballots didn't transfer over like they should have, and that could have been dealing with how whatever programmer programmed them. But at this point, we really don't know, so that's why
it could also potentially be a software issue.
We're not going to speculate at this point.
But you just said it could potentially be a human error. That was speculation.
Correct. So that's why you're
so sounds like she's not wearing a mask.
I'm just trying to
give you. I know what you're trying to do. And we really don't have it pinpointed right now. Like we want to be able to give you the exact answer on what happened.
Absolutely.
I'm not able to do that right
now. Right.
Unbelievable, huh?
Good morning, everybody. It is a lovely day in the state of Georgia. And do you want to know why? Because of what happened yesterday. Now, this is going to be a bit of a long one, and we're about to really push TikTok's algorithm and see if they are actually for free speech or if they're going to censor me again, regardless of ownership. With that being said, I'm letting you guys know it's going to be a little bit of a long one because we got a lot of shit to get through.
Power.
With that being said, buckle up. It's showtime. Now, if you didn't pay attention to what happened in Fulton County, pay attention now. I'm going to give you a quick little time travel period. All right. 2020, November, election night, right? We were waiting on Fulton County to come in, their votes, their tallies, so we could see decisively who won the state of Georgia. Now, during all of that, there was a story that got put out that poll workers had to be sent home because of a water main leak. And what they really did was send home Republican poll workers. Now, it's caught on camera. It's all over the fucking place. It's real easy access for anybody with capable thumbs. You can see the footage of poll workers pulling out ballot boxes underneath tables while there was no other supervision from the opposition. They were in there themselves, working late at night, and it was only Democrat poll workers. They were also caught on CCTV footage. There's a woman in a yellow shirt.
Whenever I'd play that video, places like YouTube and Facebook would kick me off. They kick me off. They ban me for weeks and all that kind of stuff.
Now, her name had been exposed.
Eventually, they took my channels. They took both my Facebook page and my YouTube page. I've lost the YouTube ones. I had to make new ones. I had to hack back in because I was supposed to be banned for life and this and that. So
but somehow, some way she won her case. Still don't know how the fuck that happened, but that needs to be investigated too. Who was caught on CCTV footage scanning the same.
They're so desperate to cover this up. It annoys me so bad.
Batch of ballots over and over again. Now, this water main leak that they sold to the American people who were dumb enough to believe it was actually a toilet leak on the second floor on the other side of the building that had no way to interact with the polling location at all whatsoever. But that was the story that they sold you. Now, some people are going to want to ignore the next two things that I'm going to show you. The first one was from July 15th of 2021, questioning the results of the 2020 election. Again, this is from July 15th. You can pause to read it if you want to. I'm not going to go through that because we have a very limited amount of time. This was from Voter GA and their 15-point reason behind why they didn't trust the election. Again, you can read it if you want to. We don't have enough time to get through it all. Now, during all of that, the Biden administration continued to tell us, no, this is wrong. It was the free, most fair, transparent election of all time. I don't believe that personally, and I'm never going to, especially when you are continuously hiding shit. Now, there's a woman that's on TikTok who works for Fulton County, and she's already trying to put out a narrative saying, hey, use your discernment, which is just a fancy way of saying, hey, don't listen to what the fuck they're about to expose about 2020. Listen to the lie that we fed you for 5 years. Here's where numbers come in, and this is my favorite thing, so I'm a big math nerd. Joe Biden won the election by under 12,000 votes. It's where you got the Donald Trump phone call where they tried to impeach him over trying to say that he was trying to subvert the will of the people when he said you need to find the 11,788 votes. Now, I need you to keep in mind that number, 11,788 votes or 778 votes. Either way, under 12,000 votes is what Joe Biden won by in 2020. If you flash back to like a week or two ago, it was recently exposed that the number wasn't 150-something thousand like Voter GA had thought. No, the number was much bigger. It was 315,000 ballots that had issues, no polling.
I think we're heading in that direction that some of these people are going to be held accountable. I bet you not all of them, but some of them.
Signature and did not follow the federal laws to be considered, on the up and up. So what does that tell you? That tells you that when they were telling you that, even if there was voter fraud, which is what they had ended up admitting to at some point, that it wasn't enough to change the outcome of the election. I need you to remember 12,000, right? That 11,000 something number. We're just going to round up to 12. 315,000. If you just subtract that, that's 303,000 ballots that would have changed the outcome of the election. The numbers do not equal out to say that Joe Biden legally, fairly, transparently, and freely won the election. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, if you need a further reason as to why I don't trust the electronic voting machines, especially the ones that are connected to Dominion, I'm going to show you a video clip of what happened on a Georgia Senate floor hearing when they were investigating the 2020 election and what they were doing in real time while talking to these representatives in the state of Georgia.
The weekend last week about connected devices. At this very moment, at a polling location in the county, not only do we now have access through the devices to the poll pad, the system, but we are in. And it's not supposed to have Wi-Fi, and that's not supposed to be able to happen. So we've documented now. It's communicating two ways in real time, meaning it's receiving data and sending data. Should never happen, shouldn't be.
Exactly, Gregory.
Now keep in mind, all of that was going on, and they were still trying to push forward court cases in the state of Georgia to investigate the 2020 election, and were shot down every step of the way, either for quote-unquote lack of sufficient evidence, or they weren't able to get the lawsuit in on time. They ignored affidavits, they ignored the audits, they ignored everything because it went against the narrative that Joe Biden was a duly elected president for the 2020 term. Cue what's going on now in the state of Georgia. The FBI has now raided to collect the 2020 election information. Now, they had apparently filled out the paperwork wrong the first time, and I'm assuming that they thought that it was going to end there, but it's not. And the fact that
it wasn't wrong, they fought it. They fought it, so they had to make new paperwork up.
He's now coming out and trying to tell you ahead of time, don't listen to what they're about to tell you about this.
I'm wondering during that few hours where they went back and had to have it redone, how much stuff they got changed.
Me that they didn't get rid of everything that they thought that they did to justify what Donald Trump has been saying about 2020 this whole time. Because I'm sorry, if it was me, I had done nothing wrong. I broke no laws. I know that everything's on the up and up. What I would do, especially if I wanted to destroy Donald Trump's image on his trust, have it. Shut these MAGA people the fuck up, finally. Go ahead, have everything. We ain't got nothing to hide, but they're not doing that. They always say that guilty dogs bark the loudest, and these motherfuckers never shut up. Ever. They're over here telling you, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. It was the most free, fair, transparent. But no, you can't look at it. No, you can't investigate it. Why would you want to do that? Just take our word for it. No, go fuck yourself. If you have nothing to hide, you should not be worried about a singular fucking thing other than finally Donald Trump is going to get called a liar. Finally, we're going to get MAGA to turn on him. Finally, no one's going to trust him no more. All that shit that happened in 2020 and 2021 and continuing on, it was for nothing. Look at them. They look stupid. You and I both know that that's not going to fucking happen, is it? It's the same shit when they peddle the argument of ICE being outside of polling locations is going to subvert the will of the American people. How? They're not going after American fucking citizens. They're going after illegal immigrants, dumbass. Unless you're admitting that illegal immigrants are involved in our elections, nobody that's going there has anything to worry about. They don't realize that they continuously tell on themselves over and over again because their voting base is so fucking dumb without any common sense or critical thinking. They have told on themselves time and time and time again. Let's hope that this is the tip of the iceberg. Because these dogs, man, they're barking. They're real fucking scared over what's going to be found in the state of Georgia, especially in Fulton County. And if they find shit there, I guarantee you, Pennsylvania, Michigan, California, Wisconsin, especially all of the swing states for 2020, are going to be looked into next.
Yeah. We got to win the midterms.
So keep your eyes and ears open, guys. Because I sure
or they're going to rig it.
I'm ready for Vindication Day.
Yeah, facts. I agree. I agree with chat. Everything in chat there. So I think I'm going to hop over on this one next.
Those are illegal to have. I got to go to the post office right now and drop it off, okay?
These are the drop boxes and vote mining.
Those are illegal to have. I got to go to the post office right now and drop it off, okay?
Do you go to like any particular post office? Like
I go throughout the entire city. If I have a bunch of them, what I'll do is if I have a bunch of them, I'll take 20 here, 30 here, 40 here.
Mix it up, not the same post office.
Of course not.
Yeah.
What I do in picking up the ballots when he was with me, that's illegal. I could go to jail. So I'm a little apprehensive to tell somebody, you know what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? And again, once he works with me once, he's going to say,
I guess Trump was right. I'm sorry.
About doing shit illegal?
I'm sorry?
About doing stuff illegal?
Yeah. They all said he was full of shit.
Oh, hell no, he's not. It's true. Because you're not supposed to do that.
She's even admitting she was not supposed to be doing what she's doing. Ridiculous.
Of screenshots capturing the disturbing profile of Eric Coomer. In September 2020, FEC United founder Joe Oldman had infiltrated Antifa to uncover journalists who were active members of the Antifa group attacking his company in Colorado. Joe, you infiltrated an Antifa conference call this past September and accidentally came upon a top Dominion voting systems executive named Eric Coomer. Describe that call and what it led you to find.
It was interesting how the call started. Somebody says, "Who's Eric?" He says, "Eric's Dominion guy." Someone actually said, "Hey, go ahead." Told him to continue speaking. And someone interrupts and says, "What are we going to do if effing Trump wins?" And Eric responds, and I'm paraphrasing this, by the way, "Don't worry about the election. Trump is not going to win. I made effing sure of that." And then they started laughing, and somebody says effing right. And so I just put a simple Google search to start, which was Eric Dominion, Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, what a lowlife, I agree.
Eric Coomer came up immediately under Dominion voting systems.
Turns out Eric Coomer held a top position at Dominion. With a PhD in nuclear physics, Coomer joined Dominion as vice president of engineering and holds several patents with Dominion, ensuring users can adjudicate ballots from the machines. The very function Ron Watkins pointed out as a huge red flag. After the election, Altman was sent an article highlighting Eric Coomer from Dominion. Altman started looking into Eric again. Eric was the director of strategy and security at Dominion and a shareholder in the company.
When I got into his Facebook page, that's when things really started to kind of come together for me that Eric Coomer was this, he was not just Antifa. He was responsible for putting his finger on the
There's
scales
stealing
of
going
our
on there,
election.
And Dominion seemed to be a friendly place for such anti-Trump sentiment. Coomer goes on to travel to battleground states all of 2019.
Whatever they were building to coming into the 2020 election, that he made sure it happened. He made sure that that Dominion voting systems was in all the battleground states for the 2020 election.
They had it rigged every which way. All right, this is a good video.
Start with a virus, import it into America, talk about it nonstop, call some governors, nod them, that's your guys. Put patients into nursing homes, kill thousands, blame the president, keep blaming, blame some more, lock down small business, kill the economy, push mail-in voting, stoke a race.
They did the lockdowns, but you could go to the bar.
Call for
go to
riots.
church.
Pick a candidate. No, not her. Yeah, that's more like it. Lock him in his basement. Shield him from the press. Don't cover this. Don't cover this. Don't cover this. Keep doing that. Ignore the economic recovery. Downplay the world peace. Pump the polls. Pump, pump. Don't stop pumping. Install your software in swing states. That was fast. Take control of polling stations. Call off the election when you're losing. Kick everyone out. Pull out all the extra ballots. Get the software to do its thing. Get the media to say it's over. Call the big tech guys. Ban anyone who notices. Act like the whole thing never happened.
Count suspended.
Stealing the most powerful republic in the world. It's that
sure
easy.
Is.
I have to say that we haven't been briefed yet by our county attorneys, but we have spent millions.
This is in the Fulton County when they're all getting lawyers and that kind of stuff. I kind of wonder why. Fulton County Commissioner, District 1?
Millions of dollars and outside legal counsel to fight anybody from ever seeing the actual election materials, the actual ballots since 2020. So there's been a lot of questions raised. They've admitted there's been a lot of issues with the election.
Is it getting any better, Tammy?
Blocked it at every turn of anybody actually getting to see the physical ballots.
I know you and I, Bridget, actually when we first met is because there was a Fulton County.
Down San Antonio, and is it there or Austin? They got a lot of Antifa.
Commissioner's call in the aftermath of the election. It was virtual because of COVID. You were a caller on that, and you were basically talking on the call about how stacks of ballots printed had gone missing from the warehouse. And then all of a sudden they dropped your call. And I had to hunt you down on social media and say, what did you know? What did you see? So tell us about that.
Yes, I mean, I was just a normal citizen. I didn't belong to any political party. I just thought that I worked elections 9 years. Thought I was a stellar precinct manager prior to the election. They wanted me to train other election poll workers. So I just happened to be in the warehouse and witness a lot of things of Dominion running our warehouse, the elections group, these NGOs. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they hired him because most of the people in there knew nothing about elections. Yet it was very difficult for me to get hired. And yes, you met me. That was after the state board election meeting because I was frustrated because I reported everything before the election that I saw, that I witnessed.
They didn't want to hear it.
And nothing was done about it.
That's why so many people protested on January 6th.
I'm just going to break it down to you as simple as I can because it's good for you to understand.
Right.
Okay, so what I do is I literally get the vote. She didn't vote for who we wanted her to vote for.
I know.
Now, if I was there earlier, before she did that, I would have caught it, and that would have never happened.
That would have never happened, right.
But when it does happen, all they need to do is check the next person, put a line through it, put their initials, and that's done.
She was like she didn't want to do it at first, and then you reminded her that she was a Democrat.
You said you're voting straight Democrat for our conversation, and she's like, well, yeah, you know what, you're right.
And then she changed, she was clearly voting for John Cornyn, and then you made her,
But that's my job. The 10 ladies that I'm going to tomorrow, their ballots are going to be
her job is to go out there and make these old people vote Democrat.
Empty, okay? So
And she collects those ballots.
I gotta have, because they're in precinct 2, I gotta take all these 10 ballots to them, and and I'm gonna have it already filled out with who I want.
Who's paying for all this?
Right? And then I'm gonna say, listen, those are my choices, like who I like, because I'm going under me. Tell me what you think, and they're gonna say, oh, okay, well, yeah, we'll just vote. Did you saw how it works?
Yeah.
It's not being persuasive. Yeah, I guess it is being persuasive. That right there is against the law for me to tell her, like, you realize you voted for.
You can't really
You're not
sway
supposed
them
to say nothing.
You just let them fill it out.
All you do is let them fill it out, and then I'm not even supposed to give them a stamp.
Or not even supposed to pick it up, right?
Everything I've done right now is wrong. Okay, look, these are the people that I did the ballots with.
Yeah.
Okay, these are my ballots with the people. I'm taking them back.
You're taking what back?
The ballots.
From where?
From them.
Oh, and bringing it where?
To the post office.
Oh.
These are people that voted that day, right? These are all the chips.
Yep.
Okay.
So like on a day like that, how many ballots do you think that you can do that with?
And she gets paid for every one of them.
I've already done, I don't know, probably like 1,800.
Almost 2,000 ballots.
Post office.
That can easily swing an election.
It's a lot of everything.
Unbelievable.
I can honestly say I'm bringing at least 7,000 votes to the polls.
So 7,000, and for San Antonio, for this area, it's a lot.
That's a lot. It's a lot. Period. Motto allowed me $2,500 to buy gifts.
Okay, nice.
And you.
That's right. They were also giving some of the people gifts if they vote a certain way.
See how he's represented well. And what did she say? Like, wow. So what is she going to do? She's going to call on the phone
tell people,
and she's going to say, man, Motto sent me this badass shawl. You know what? I could have voted for him, but you're in his area, you vote for him.
Yeah.
It's what you call flipping people.
Rodriguez gets the voters to do what she wants them to do by rewarding them with gifts, and that's against the law.
I do shawls, I do diabetic socks, I do wallets, I do rosaries, I do
part of the cartel.
Down here, Loteria is big.
John,
Loteria is big. Bingo's big.
I knew across the
bingo
board was that way.
markers, and I put their stickers on it. So guess what we're gonna do? We're taking them to a bar to go eat. Okay, I got some people that go to the bar, and guess what? Look, I had to take them beer. I was like, "Are y'all gonna come and vote or not?" And they're like, "We're gonna meet you right now." I said, "Come meet me because
as they say, loose lips sink ships, huh?"
When you get to the bar, I'm gonna have a bucket of beer for all of y'all to drink. They're like, I don't do it. I just took care of it. Yep. The owner just said your bucket's there.
Yep. It's beers and
Marianne, I agree. I don't know why.
That's Tommy on top, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Tommy. And who's the old folks?
Those are the people. Those are my voters.
Oh, that's the beers for ballots in action.
So they're going to nursing homes and stuff.
Yeah. So guess what? I got the whole bar registered.
And voted. And then they didn't get drunk and take them to the post office.
Oh, we did it first. These are some more girls. These are some lesbians.
So that's smart though.
I have lesbians.
Oh, wait. So, but that's important.
Got a few more clips
before
on
everybody gets drunk, you bring the ballots down.
Of course. Then it's like school. What are we doing? We voted for it. Give me the shit right now. Let's go.
7,000. Buy him some gifts and give him to vote. Right?
Helen is a Vietnamese. And I registered her and the entire pizza community. All the Vietnamese. I registered all of them.
Sounds like foreigners, actually.
So this is for her, Helen. So she's going to vote for Biden. She's going to vote for MJ Hager. She's going to vote for my guy, Motto.
Okay.
And she's a heavy Democrat. She's a Republican. Mm-hmm. She's going to vote for those two. Why is she going to vote for those two? Because I asked her and I told her they're a better candidate.
They were new voters.
Right.
But you didn't just give them a sample ballot and hope they voted it your way.
Of course not. I already coached her. She already knew. And what happened? I had another voter go in with her. Why? Because the other person, somebody that I trust. If he wasn't there, I would have been able to go inside.
And then he can make sure she votes the right way.
Of course.
There's a little bit more on it.
At the poll, this is my girlfriend here. I have a black girl at one of the polls. Why do I have a black girl at the poll? Why? Because we need the black vote. I need the gay vote.
Is it hard to convince certain groups?
Not because I have the right people.
They hate white Christians.
They've been following me for 5 years.
And so will she do the spiel that you do? Will she do the instructions?
Yeah, likely
That's
an
why I
illegal
have
there,
them.
Marianne.
I only have 5 girls that are really, really good, and I've got 2 that I'm training. She's delivering what I'm delivering. Those are her black friends. Those are her connections. And she's
Tammy, are you saying that the
job.
officials in San Antonio are
Okay?
corrupt, right? Tammy, you saying that officials in San Antonio are corrupt? That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so what we're looking at, Heather and Steve, are tally sheets that were the auditors for the Georgia audit that was conducted on November and 14th and 15th in Fulton County. They fill these out as they counted the ballots. And typically you would see 37 to 43, 61 to 48, something like that. But here we have tally sheets that are 100 to nothing for ballots. So somebody filled this out. But it's not just one of these. We have 7 of these, and we're going to kind of scroll through and show you these live. There's another one, 100 to nothing. The actual counts of these are like 59-42 in terms of ballot images. Here's one that's 150 to nothing.
Yeah, so basically the people that were doing the audit would count the batches and then write in fraudulent numbers because they have the corresponding images for these batches and they do not match these sheets. So whoever was doing them commit fraud. And what I had asked him in the press conference is, are these sheets signed by the person that doing them? And apparently they are, Steve. And not only that, the Secretary of State has the information. These sheets that they got, it's redacted. So they can't determine who was doing this, but we know that whoever did commit fraud.
All 374,128 in-person ballot images from the 524,000 that Fulton,
from the highest tree, huh? Yeah, it's sort of like treason.
They're all missing. Gregory. All 370. These are all the in-person votes. Yeah. All the in-person ballot images are missing.
We need to do a better job of cleaning this up.
And that's a violation of federal and state law. Now, in fairness to Fulton County, as you remember, we found other counties in which everything was missing. At least Fulton retained their absentee ballots. So if you remember our press conference from November, we found 70 counties and 1.7 million original ballot images are missing from the November election.
There you go. 1.7 million. Let me find that spot. Yeah, right there.
Original ballot images are missing from the November election.
1.7 million are missing. They're covering up their tracks.
Pay attention in the tape we're showing you to the woman wearing yellow at the desk. According to Voter GA, she slides ballots into a scanning machine, removes the ballots, and then reinserts the same ballots. This happens multiple times. The question is, how many times were those ballots counted? Was each vote counted more than once? Fulton County won't answer that question.
There are plenty of
now, one way to know the answer would be to check what are called audit tally sheets.
Good one, Gregory.
Tellingly, for months after the presidential election, Fulton County failed to provide more than 100,000 of those tally sheets, including 50,000 of them for mail-in ballots.
3 people from the Secretary of State showed up with guns and badges and handcuffs, and 2 Dominion Tech reps. They came with the intent of intimidation.
There's some overlap.
Luckily, the county attorney stayed with the supervisor so that she wasn't by herself. And basically, he said, you want to recount? We'll do a recount.
John, I'm going to be doing a show on that all these groups that are protesting, the ones that are, they're admitting that the ones that are supporting them are Communist of America, the Socialist of America, this and that. And there's some big funder that lives in China. He's an American, but he lives in China. That's a billionaire, and he's funding a lot of this that's going on in a lot of these cities.
Recount. There were no Democrats, no Republicans there to watch this recount. And the attorney called to an area private school, got a group of sophomores. They sat there and divided the ballots into.
John, it's because they're teaching it in our schools. They're teaching socialism.
100 count batches, and they proceeded to scan them, and they wouldn't scan. The Dominion tech ran into the problems that Coffee County ran into. The Dominion tech sat on the floor for 2 hours with a manual trying to figure out why they couldn't get the machines to do what they needed to do.
It now appears there actually was meaningful voter fraud in Fulton County, Georgia. The newspaper reviewed the available digital ballot images independently and concluded that hundreds of ballots were improperly duplicated. What does that look like exactly? Well, here's what it looks like. A consultant with voter GA called David Cross showed how we can be certain that votes in Fulton County were counted more than once. Watch.
What I'm going to show you here is two ballots side by side. One of them is marked for Jason Shaw, and it's got a little squiggle mark next to it. You can see it's got the identical mark on the second one. And the ballot image is stored up here on the top left. So this one over here is scanner 5162, that's scanner number 3, batch number 235, image number 19. And that matches 234, image 59. So you have the same ballot counted twice,
Gregory,
in the images
exactly
and counted in the audit. How that's possible,
they've installed their teachers.
I don't know.
How's that possible? I don't know. Every American should want to know, because the answer gets to the heart of the integrity of our elections, otherwise known as our democracy. We're not talking about a couple of ballots here. We're talking about a lot of ballots, at least hundreds of ballots involved, enough potentially to affect the outcome of the election. Here's another example.
Here's one of the next ones. All right, so same batch number 234, image number 2, and 235, image number 61.
Look at the Fannie Willis vote.
Republican, 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 all the way down to the point where this little spot up in Fannie Willis matches this one over here. There's no question that that ballot was counted twice.
Look at the handwriting for the word Republican.
So what's the explanation for this? Well, if you ask Fulton County, these discrepancies, the ones you just saw on the screen, were isolated incidents. Just a handful of bad ballots happens all the time. The county claims that any errors were caught in previous recounts. The problem is that neither one of those claims is true. Surveillance footage obtained by voter GA appears to show large numbers of ballots being scanned multiple times. Pay attention in the tape we're showing you to the woman wearing yellow at the desk.
Right.
According to voter GA, she slides ballots into a scanning machine, removes the ballots, and then reinserts the same ballots. This happens multiple times. The question is, how many times were those ballots counted? Was each vote counted more than once? Fulton County won't answer that question. Now, one way to know the answer is to check what are called audit tally sheets.
They didn't want to hand over all the papers because the numbers aren't going to match. Not with the numbers they turned in. Not even close.
Tellingly, for months after the presidential election, Fulton County failed to provide more than 100,000 of those tally sheets, including 50,000 of them for mail-in ballots. When voter GA finally forced Fulton County to turn over the tally sheets, the conclusion...
Now, there's some bills up that would get rid of a lot of this cheating, ways that they are cheating. And we got to push. We got to push hard because there's squishy Republicans, and we got to get it through the Senate, which there's a few Democrats that will vote for it, but there might be enough Republicans that won't.
Was stunning. Here's what the audit found. Quote, 7 falsified audit tally sheets containing fabricated vote totals. For example, a batch containing 59 actual ballot images for Joe Biden and 42 for Donald Trump was reported as 100 for Biden and 0 for Trump. The 7 batches of ballot images with 554 votes for Joe Biden, 140 votes for Donald Trump, and 11 votes for Joe Jorgensen had tally sheets in the audit falsified to show 850 votes for Biden, 0 votes for Trump, and 0 votes for Jorgensen. Wait, did you just follow that? How is that not flat-out criminal fraud? We'd love to know, because it certainly sounds like flat-out criminal fraud.
I hope the FBI arrested these people.
We've obtained photographs showing what went on during the...
That's why they've been doing everything for years not to turn this stuff over.
...recount process for mail-in ballots in Fulton County. These pictures were taken by a whistleblower who participated in the recount. She said she noticed something odd as she did. None of the ballots that she saw had any creases on them. You can see the stacks of unfolded ballots on your screen now. That's strange because, of course, mail-in ballots need to be bent in order to be mailed in.
How many ballots do you think are there in that stack? And it's stacks of them.
These ballots clearly had never been inside an envelope. And then the whistleblower noticed something else. All of the ballots, the whistleblower tells us, have been filled out by a printer, not by hand. And many of them supported the exact same candidates, Democrats.
Right. What I've seen about the printer thing is it's different ink used to print the stuff than what you would come out of your pen. They can tell forensically that that's different ink.
Including Joe Biden. Voter GA detected a series of other apparent irregularities in the recount. The group's audit found, for example, that, quote, over 200 Fulton County mail-in ballot images contained votes that were not included in the hand count audit results for the November election. Now, why is that? We don't know. Keep in mind, once again, the results in the state of Georgia were decided by fewer than 13,000 votes. It was a close race. Every vote mattered. And then there's this. An elections expert called Mark Davis analyzed data from the post office. He found that nearly 35,000 Georgia voters moved out of their county of residence more than a month prior to Election Day. They were ineligible to vote, and yet they did. They still voted in their old county. That is illegal. It's not a small thing. Violating election law is something we should care about. And by law, their votes should have been excluded from the total, but they were not excluded. Why are we okay with that? Why are we okay with any of this? Well, we're okay with it because we've been told we have to be okay with it. We're undermining democracy if we ask questions about what happened during the 2000.
You notice he got kicked off Fox News after that?
2020 election. And of course, that's a
Trish Reagan got kicked off and other ones.
Perfect inversion of the truth.
Any other counties that this happened in where they were concerned about certifying but felt compelled or forced to?
Yes, I was told by many counties that they called, questioned the Secretary of State, and they were told to certify.
Can you tell this committee how many counties that might be?
I talked personally 8 counties, and out of that 6 said they were forced to certify.
Can you explain what you mean by forced to certify?
One county was 106 votes off, and the Secretary of State's office told them they must certify that number. Another county, which was a small county, was 2.3% off. They were told they had to recertify. Another county was off. They questioned it. The Secretary of State said, upload your stuff, let us look at it. They called them back and said, oh, we found a missing batch. And then they magically matched. That's what I was told. I have copies of the emails later on, whatever you need. And those people were willing to do an affidavit.
Can you tell us what steps the Secretary of State took when they came down to Coffee County?
When they came to Coffee County, they came down on a Friday. They told them that Thursday, I believe, it may have been late Wednesday that they were coming. 3 people from the Secretary of State showed up with guns and badges and handcuffs, and 2 Dominion Tech reps. They came with the intent of intimidation. Luckily, the county attorney stayed with the supervisor so that she wasn't by herself. And basically, he said, you want a recount? We'll do a recount. There were no Democrats, no Republicans there to watch this recount. Yeah. And the attorney called to an area private school, got a group of sophomores.
Somehow Joe Biden got 80 million votes, remember? When even Obama only got about 60.
They sat there and divided the ballots into 100-count batches, and they proceeded to scan them, and they wouldn't scan. The Dominion Tech ran into the problems that Coffee County ran into. The Dominion Tech sat on the floor for 2 hours with a manual trying to figure out why they couldn't get the machines to do what they needed to do.
The seal?
And Kathy, was the Secretary of State responsive or helpful during this process?
No, sir.
Without answers to legitimate questions like the ones we just posed, and those are legitimate questions, democracy dies. People begin to understand that the system they've been told is on the level is in fact rigged. And when they believe that, God knows what they do next. So let's find out what actually happened. Let's find out immediately. Let's find out without shame. It's our right to know. It's our responsibility to know.
Amen on that. Now, here's a lady that won millions of dollars in a defamation suit over the election integrity.
So, I got a lot of work to do, y'all. Oh. Yeah. So, I got a lot of work to do, y'all.
She was fixing the election, actually.
So, I'm working 7 days a week. but I'm getting it done. I was out for 10 days because I ain't like the way things were going. So I just said, yeah, anywho, I'll see y'all when I see you. But I'm back, ready to work. I'm gonna let y'all see this. Okay, don't say nothing. Listen, look.
She was rigging in this. She was one of the counters or something. She was one of the ones that rigged it. In Biden's mind, yeah. Most transparent, my ass. Actually, a lot of people figured it out. It's just that there was no judge or any entity that would do something about it.
Voter's registration. Sir, can I have some work? It's been 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Uh-huh.
That's all you give me?
I ain't going to give you but 5. I come to work, y'all, and they talk about me. Oh, they talk about me. I don't care. Because I told them I didn't want to work. Oh, Dion, thank you. Thank you, love. When I didn't want to work, I took off for 10 days. Now I'm back at work. Give me some work. Because I come to work. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, she was part of the cheating.
You just give
Tammy.
me one. God bless you real good. Thank
I
you.
want to give you 2.
It was to open. This is before the election.
Overwork. Ain't no such
She's
thing. I'm going
opening
to
up
be here till
the ballots. She's opening up the mail-in ballots. This is before the election.
7 o'clock. Okay. Y'all see all this I got to do?
She's miscounting them.
I got to do all this. Enter all these absentee
And she ended up winning a lawsuit.
Don't mind Miss
Because people seen the videos and said she was cheating.
She's slacking.
I know you ain't talking to me, and you're the one just giving
Her
me
name
some
was
work.
Friedman, Rudy Friedman.
That's all right. I'll charge it to you.
She's famous now.
Head and heart.
Charge it to the game.
No, I'm going to charge it to your head and your heart. You don't know about it. Hey, Sister Baldwin. Hey, everybody. Y'all see my name on my screen?
387.
She's one of the cheaters.
I'm enjoying my work. I'm enjoying my work. Well, I got to sign today, huh? I ain't signed
Look at how
yesterday.
those ballots are all over the place. You could have add stacks to that all the time if it was that way.
Down in Fulton County, it's required that Fulton County have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and I believe an independent on their election board. The Board of Commissioners, which is above the election board, is refusing to seat the 2 Republicans on the board, and they're not allowed to participate. They're not officially on the board yet. The Republican GOP has gone to court 3 times now to get a court order saying, hey, our Republicans need to be seated. And 3 times now, the court has said, yeah, they do. And they have issued orders
she was a masker.
The county commissioners saying, you need to seat the Republicans on the board. They're lawfully appointed. There's no legal reason that they can't be on the board. They meet all the requirements and they went through the proper process. So put them on the board. And the commissioners are just saying, no, we're just not going to do it. So finally on Wednesday, they went back of this week, just a couple days ago, they went back and got an order from the judge getting a contempt order, holding the county commissioners in contempt, $10,000 fine per day that they do not seat these Republicans down in.
And they were desperate. They were willing to spend that kind of money to keep any Republicans from being on the boards. It's ridiculous.
You're not saying, Ms. Moore, that you seek destruction of the records.
One of the things that we've been after in the case is the original
they've been fighting for years on getting these ballots and stuff.
Absentee ballots. And
the absentee ones as well.
The plan was to get the physical ballots, scan them at high resolution, and return the physical ballots to the county.
They won't give up the ballots. That's why the FBI had to eventually go
That's
in.
a lot of ballots, okay? 147,000 approximately absentee ballots. And I believe there's
this is the absentee ones, not the regular ballots.
Do you know if they preserve the absentee ballot envelopes?
I'm sorry?
The absentee ballot envelopes with the signatures on the outside, do you know if those are preserved?
I believe everything's been preserved that was stated in that.
They're separated from the ballots.
Okay, so there
they're not
is,
supposed to be separated
Ms.
either.
Moore, an order that Judge Amaro entered It's labeled a temporary injunction, so I could see how that would give someone cause. Temporary doesn't mean permanent. That for a little while, people should preserve all the many things listed in there. Do you believe that that's sufficient to protect everyone's interests, or where are we with that? Are you here to say we're done? We don't want to preserve the evidence anymore. Find your own warehouse.
That's correct. We don't want to. The clerk does not want to continue preserving the evidence.
She sued and won money.
I have some pictures of
she won millions
warehouse where the elections records are being stored. If the court is interested in seeing those, but they show that all the documents that are currently
I don't know how they live
are
with
pretty
themselves,
much filling the
Marianne.
entire space, the space that's devoted specifically for elections records.
Yeah, they
because
see
those have to
themselves
be
as
secured.
crusaders
So
to
it's
stop
under,
Nazis.
lock and key, kind of in a caged area that's separate from some of the other clerks' records. And so elections are ongoing, and we have elections coming up.
We do, yes.
The clerk would really like to be able to move out old stuff so that she can fulfill her obligation to store the new stuff that's going to be coming in, because if not, it's going to be an expense to her office to expand that storage area and to accommodate all the records that will be coming in.
All right, the FBI will take them off your hands.
Madam Clerk is here and can speak to that as well. We would like to take that issue up first, if that's okay, so that she can then go on. She's not really needed here for purposes of the attorney's fees discussion, but we know she's busy, and we would like to address that first. If that's okay.
Yeah, here she's busy. Out with the old, in with the new, sounds like is the theme. So I'm happy to hear from Clerk Alexander if we need to.
I haven't watched this whole
but
thing.
let's explore this. You're not saying, Ms. Moore, that you seek destruction of the records. You seek to shift whatever obligation there is to maintain the records away from the clerk to someone else.
Actually, they want to destroy him.
So this big cage can be opened up for the next wave of records that'll be coming in November.
Well, the statute permits the clerk to, she's required to keep them for 24 months, and then I believe they go through
the whole fight they've been having
exactly clear for what purpose, but then
5
after
years
that,
now. 5 years they've been
can be
fighting over
destroyed
this
legally. So we would presume to follow the process that's set forth in the law, and if they get destroyed, they get destroyed. However, if I suppose, if the plaintiffs want to pay for continued storage or provide that, I'm not exactly sure how that would work, though. I mean, that would require lots of further discussion. But from the clerk's perspective, she's fulfilled her statutory obligation to maintain those records, and her obligation is over with at this point.
Well, maybe. What gets the clerk out from underneath Judge Amero's order? Other than you saying, gosh, it's been a long time and we'd like to use the cage for something else.
Well, the case was dismissed, and there hasn't been any new injunction. To your point, it was temporary. It wasn't clear to me when it ended.
This is why it ended up being so important for Trump to go down to Venezuela and get Maduro, because he's talking. I'm hearing that he's talking a lot, saying how all this worked and where it was working.
The petitioners haven't demonstrated any success on the merit, so I don't know on what basis we would be continuing to require.
He's also given names, so they got to work their way up the ladder, getting the lower people to get to the top people. That's what's going to happen.
For the clerk to maintain.
That's why Trump's saying he's got them all.
Until when? I mean, we just need some clarity on that, because it does have a significant impact on operations, and they cannot just be held forever.
Right. They don't have any morals.
Do you know
Gregory,
if
they have no
there
morals.
are any
That's why they
orders
can do
in
this.
place
No
from the election interference criminal case with Judge McAfee about preserving this same evidence, so that even if I were to grant you the relief you're seeking, which is making clear that this TRO or whatever we're going to call it is no longer in place. It's sort of like the guy who pleads guilty. Great, I've resolved my case, but there's a hold from another jurisdiction. He's not going anywhere. Is there anything that Judge McAfee has put in place that says those records need to stay where they are, or might he be relying on Judge Amero's January 7th, 2021 order? Or I'm not asking you to comment about what you don't know. I just know that these.
I don't know the answer to your question without doing some further research. As I understand it, the clerk has been continuing to hold on to the records based on this January 7th order in this case. I can't speak on the other case.
I guarantee you there's going to be more to come on.
No, that's okay. You weren't here for that. I just wasn't sure if, well, I just figured that the clerk's team would know if there were multiple orders they're trying to strip away so they can.
Gregory.
I think the clerk may know something about
You can't give them the benefit of the doubt. They had a motive.
She's saying no.
We know they cheated.
Okay.
We know they cheated.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
Yes, there are.
And the
some
thing is to
items
stop
that
it from
have been
ever
subpoenaed.
happening again.
Harrison Floyd's case.
At least in my lifetime.
And this specific order, the January 7th order, Judge McAfee was informed about it. He hasn't issued his own order, but he was aware of it being in place and knows that some of the items overlap.
Okay. So that it's not identical. What your understanding of what Mr. Floyd is looking for, is it less extensive than this or more extensive, and so he needs records held elsewhere?
It is probably more extensive if I had to guess.
Okay. So who would have the other records he's looking for?
Well, I think some of them the election board has, because there's been subpoenas to the Secretary of State.
Like I said, no morals.
I believe the election board.
Okay.
They have a motive.
So it would help me, Ms. Moore, if we did maybe you shared a couple photos, just so I have a sense of, hey, you know what, this will fit in my garage. I'll hold them and just get this out of everyone's hair, versus, and I'm not actually offering that up, versus, you know what, Mr. McDougal can find an empty warehouse somewhere and stand guard over them.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, do you have whatever you're sharing with me? You've shared with.
They're really desperate to destroy these.
Counsel on the other side.
Yeah, they should have received a copy when I forwarded the documents to Ms. House.
Oh well, if you are these exhibits? Because I've got a way to get to the exhibits. Which ones are they?
They came from me. They were not numbered necessarily when I sent them. So other than.
All right, hold on.
Came from me on Friday.
Would it be clerk's exhibits? I figured it out. Okay, so there are 4 PDFs.
It's the one titled photographs.
Oh, warehouse photos.
Yeah.
That's a good label.
Okay.
What? This is like bigger than a Home Depot.
It's a large, the warehouse itself is really large. These photographs are just, like I said, of the part of the caged part that is locked for purposes of storing election records. And it's rectangular shaped.
So what we see here is everything in that picture. It should be on your screen right in front of you. Is it not right in front of Mr. Kaplan? So you don't have to look far. Is everything in that picture part of what is being retained pursuant to the order, or that was just a way to impress us with how big the clerk's warehouse is, and we're all very impressed?
Not every single pallet is from the 2020 election.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
but you also can't.
There are some additional.
Can't prove they're guilty either, Gregory.
Pictures that show.
This is under inclusive. That's not everything right there. It's more than what we see in this picture.
Right. So the big wall that you saw, there are 2 of those. There's another one exactly opposite that wall. Mm-hmm. So it's approximately 100 pallets total in the cage. And if you go to the next picture, you can kind of get a sense of how many boxes are on each pallet.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 36 boxes
It's going to take a while to go through all that.
Per pallet. So that's just to give you an idea of how many records are there, or boxes of stuff that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Any new stuff would have to go in that walkway that you saw in the first picture, because the shelves are full. But to your point, or to answer your question, not every pallet is contains election records from the 2020 general election, but many of them do.
Okay, so the metric will likely be pallets. If we're looking for other space to store things, it would be a question of how many pallets. How many pallets are from the November 3rd, 2020 general election?
Do you know, Lisa?
If we don't know today, that's all right. That seems like a knowable thing.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection from being there was that it was about half. Half of the pallets seem to be from the 2020 election.
Okay.
There are 98 pallets.
98 pallets in
2020, 2021, 2022. We don't have enough storage, right? We made it so that we could carry. Do I need to testify?
You don't need to testify so much. It's not, but the 98 pallets are for 3 years.
So what we say, because every 2 years they go away, so we have enough room to cover that.
Yep, right. The new comes in as the old goes out. But 98 pallets, that would mean for 2020, it is less than 98.
Right, so I would say a third of that. So
Okay. It might be more than a third because it was a general election. 2021 was probably not so much.
The real reason for keeping them right now is because it's just still disputed. It's very much so. And they're desperate to get rid of them.
But let's say it's 40 pallets. Okay. All right. And Ms. Moore, do you know?
Why are they so worried at people trying to count them and going over these ballots one more time? You know, actually, they haven't been able to view them. Actually, they've desperately fought it tooth and nail for us to get the information out.
If there are legal restrictions as to how they need to be stored or who could have access to them. They're in the cage, so they're clearly not, this is not like a public library. I could not walk in there as John Q. Public and like, hey, I want to look in box 411, which is on the screen there, and just see what's in there. They're not publicly available records.
Correct.
So it would need to be secure storage.
Correct.
All right.
Yes, they're supposed to be held by the clerk under seal unless otherwise directed by the Superior Court.
Well, that's me.
Yes, that's you.
Okay. All right. So whatever we do, we need to do soon, so they're out of there in time for the next election.
Yeah, they shouldn't be denying it. It would clear their name if they allowed them to be looked at.
But the main stuff is we're waiting for it. We won't have room for the.
They normally wouldn't fight this hard. They wouldn't normally fight this hard. Like life and death. They're defying court orders to give these up. They've been defying them for years. Judges have ordered that they release them, and they just will not do it. That's why they had to go in with the FBI.
May 21st.
That's why soon. Right. Where is that? It's being gotten it, but then there's going to be this knock on the door, and you're going to say no room at the inn. I'll have to go into a manger. Okay. It looks like there's a lot. I don't mean to push back at all, but I'm looking at. There's a lot of maybe this like for forklifts to move around. There seems to be a lot of empty space in this giant warehouse.
It's for, this is just a piece of it. It's huge.
Okay.
But it's for the space for the.
They want to get rid of
these hugeness.
These particular ballots. They want to get rid of these
cage, or why is?
Okay. When they configure the warehouse, there's the storage for the election stuff is in the cage. So
got it.
So even
if it's digital though, they can also delete that.
Staff at the warehouse can't get to it.
Got it. And that's what.
And the other thing about having it digital, you can't see that. Oh, if they've been folded or not all the time, you know, you can't tell. But if you can actually see the physical ballots that were supposedly mailed in, and they've never been folded, and they're supposed to be in mail-in ballot things, they can show that that's a lie. The other thing about not having the physical ones, they can't tell if it was hand marked or printed marked, the dots and stuff. When they're running them through a copier and they're running them through a printer, it's different ink than you would with a pen.
It's much more limited is the cage space. If it didn't need to be caged, you probably have some extra real estate.
Watermark too, you're right.
Okay. All right.
The watermark issue. So if you can get a hold of the physical ballots.
Mr. McDougall, any suggestions
all that
as to what we do here? There's a space constraint with the clerk. I'm going to confer with Judge McAfee. My guess is that there are several judges who will want to keep this maintained until there are closure on issues. We may resolve the issues in this case soon, and then it may be moot, but that may not mean those things can be shredded.
Right. I have a client in the case before Judge
Digital
McAfee,
watermark. Right,
and I absolutely want these records preserved.
Okay. So if we're going to send them somewhere else, any suggestions?
Well, not specifically. I have a couple of considerations to offer.
I didn't mean you have a fair point.
Yeah,
a warehouse on Fulton Industrial.
And not to be flip, but we can't take them. They're government records.
Right.
The space constraint, I don't know, so I will ask, does the election board have space to take them back during the pendency of this litigation or the pendency of the criminal case?
There was a criminal case.
Judge McAfee and I will work through that. I bet not, but it's worth asking.
They got a new facility, and I think they're it's been a while since I was on the election board, but are they out of the English Street warehouse there? Completely?
Yeah, it's the same facility that the clerk is in, and as we already mentioned,
And
there's only the cage.
Has English Street been repurposed to other storage?
Yeah, they're out of there.
It's out of lease, so no longer occupied premises. Okay.
Is it coming back
what you're
up,
saying
Marianne?
is that this cage space that the clerk.
Marianne, it's being shut down tomorrow? All right, for everyone, I normally post that I'm going to go live in a link. Just plan on being live at 6 tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I normally post a link on there so people can see. 6 p.m. Eastern, okay, tomorrow.
Is using the election board also uses. This is not exclusive clerk cage space.
I'm hoping it comes back up shortly thereafter.
The cage space is exclusive to the clerk. What I was saying is that the warehouse where the cage is located is not necessarily exclusive to the clerk. There's Board of Registration Elections there, and also the sheriff, I think.
Okay.
So are they doing election day operations or scanning operations there? Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
I used to know that stuff.
What about Ms. Moore's observation that the clerk's done paying for this and using?
That would help, John.
Why should I place a burden on the clerk's office? 24 months have come and gone to figure out where to move these and how to pay for their continued storage.
You'll be able to see me on Rumble.
Statutorily can say, I now no longer have an interest or responsibility for these things.
Well, if the court gives the clerk the responsibility to keep the records, then the clerk has to keep them. But, the idea that these records would be destroyed while this litigation is pending, while State v. Trump
it's almost done.
Pending, and the day after they're destroyed, they're going to come in here with a motion to dismiss that the case is moot, and they can't win their case that way.
So,
plus we're good with the Rumble comments.
I hear you, and I wasn't suggesting
destruction. I know you weren't, but
that part
that's what would happen.
Why should it not be a joint expense of the parties to the case to maintain these documents? This is a civil case, so burdening the government in a civil case should be the exception, as opposed to a criminal case where the state brings it and there's a price tag, financial price tag associated with bringing a criminal case. Civil case, your client brought it, and I don't know what the justification would be to extend the financial burden to the clerk, who's not even a party to the case anymore. In fact, is trying to get a refund for money that was expended for attorney representation.
Okay, so and it's maybe not the right analogy, but in an ordinary piece of civil litigation, one party sends a litigation hold. The burden of holding the records is on the party that gets the letter, and we're in a somewhat analogous posture, but we're in the better posture for our purposes because they're pre-existing without any lawsuit. There's a federal statutory obligation to maintain them for 22 months. That's expired, I grant you. But the case was on appeal for 2 years. In my brief that I submitted this morning, I said almost 2 years. It was actually 2 years and a couple of weeks. That consumed that storage
for
retention
people not
period.
to see them.
And the status quo should be preserved while the merits of the case are litigated. And, you know, in light of what our side, I mean, let me offer this. It may be possible for us to confer amongst ourselves and with the county's lawyers to reduce the scope and volume. Now, that would not control Judge McAfee or the parties in that case. And if we hypothesize that those parties or Judge McAfee order full retention, that cost certainly cannot be cast upon the criminal defendants.
Seize a pistol?
No. And it wouldn't, and it shouldn't. But then Judge McAfee might engage in a discussion with county officials about how can we relieve the pressure from the clerk's office, who's sort of this unwitting, wait, I'm stuck in the middle of this. I've met my obligation and then some.
So I don't want to be misunderstood as being obstructionist or obstreperous. We will be happy to work with them to come up with a solution that meets their practical needs and meets our need to preserve this evidence for purposes of this case.
Okay.
And so maybe we can't figure that out completely today, but you know, maybe we can confer with our team and narrow the scope of it a little bit and then confer with them and see if that would be acceptable.
So two things. One, a gentle pushback on the preservation letter.
Yeah, I did hear that about they had to cut the locks open to get in there. They wouldn't unlock it for them, even when the FBI came with the warrants and all that.
Yes, and it's
They're really
the
desperate to
recipient
keep
of the letter who needs to
people from
preserve
seeing
documents, but it's not uncommon for then there to be some kind of teleconference with the judge saying, hey, we were willing to do this for a little while. It's becoming onerous. And if it's an undue burden, then there may be some burden shifting, which is continue to preserve, but the person who's asking you to preserve it is going to help foot the bill.
That does occur.
And that may occur here.
Okay.
The question that flows from that, I'm intrigued by you saying, and I appreciate it only applies to this case, doesn't any other case, that you and Mr. Harding might be able to narrow the scope of what needs to be preserved. In these boxes, they're not randomly numbered, but it's 1 million boxes.
Yeah,
how
it's nonsense.
Do you go about saying, you know what, we only need box 17?
Well, we do not have the index to what's in the boxes, I don't believe. But if we define what we want, as an example, one of the things that we've been after in the case is the original absentee ballots. And the plan was to get the physical ballots, scan them at high resolution, and return the physical ballots to the county. That's going to be less than 48 ballots. Now, it's a lot of ballots, okay? 147,000 approximately absentee ballots. And I believe there's envelopes still. Do they preserve do you know if they preserve the absentee ballot envelopes?
I'm sorry?
The absentee ballot envelopes with the signatures on the outside, do you know if those are preserved?
I believe everything's been preserved that was stated in that.
You know, they're separated from the ballots. And you can't match them up once they're separated, but there is some informational value in those envelopes that may have a bearing.
Handwriting on the outside and the signatures on the ballots themselves.
But my point of saying that, Your Honor, is that if we can say, okay, these are the categories that we really need, and if we get those, we can let it go. And I don't know how they keep their records, but that might permit them to say, okay, it's these 4 pallets.
Got it. Okay. And that would be a balancing test as well, because you might be able to do that. And then the response would be, that would be so burdensome to do that. We just soon figure out a way to keep everything and find that middle ground.
And there was an order entered. I'm speaking from a little bit of ignorance here. Mr. Harding will correct me if I'm wrong. There was an order entered for this to occur before the case was dismissed for lack of standing. Okay, and elaborate plans and preparations were made with an elaborate procedure to carry out the physical scanning process. Equipment, so there was a bunch of work done to line that up. I am not familiar with whether the clerk's office or the board or the county had agreed to all of that, but there was a good bit of work on this side of V to prepare for that. Did that get shared with the county at the time? All the work that y'all did to prepare for scanning? Yeah. So it was all transparent, but I don't know whether they agreed to it then or whether they would agree to it now.
Okay. All right. Well, I think step one is I'll need to talk with Judge McAfee. If his response is we need to preserve it all for his case anyway, then you can continue your efforts to focus, but that would be to focus which boxes do we open, not what do we preserve. And then we'll need to pivot to where is a different place these boxes can go. And if the answer is someplace that there is a recurring cost that is connected with that, then we talk about burden sharing as well, and see from that. But for now, that order is in place, so nothing should be destroyed. But Ms. Moore, I appreciate you flagging this. I am mindful that there's a clock ticking and boxes are going to start showing up that need to go in the cage, and that it'll be complicated finding a home for them.
Yeah. I'm sure they got other stuff they could delete with it that wouldn't cover any of this. I don't know. What's everyone think about that?
What was so interesting was I assumed coming into it that the big manufacturers, companies like ES&S and Dominion, had provided these machines to the hackers to, field test them. But no, it turns out there's an extremely hostile relationship there, and that ES&S and Dominion and other companies have basically said we don't want to participate, and really have been quite aggressive in saying we don't want to be part of this. So the organizers were reduced to finding these machines on eBay, which right there is pretty terrifying, because it turns out that anybody can buy some of the most common machines in use on eBay. What was really alarming was when you see these hackers, and these are people who've never seen these machines before, have had no practice on them for the most part, come in and engage them, they immediately get into the guts of them. Beyond that, we were seeing Dominion's image cast system. It's a line of tabulators that paper ballots are fed into. That had its guts all over the room. It was not clear to us whether this was the most recent version of the image cast hardware, but it's important to note that Georgia just spent over is about to spend over $100 million on a contract with Dominion to provide image cast hardware to the state in time for the next primaries and for the 2020 election. And yet here these kids were who had opened it up. They said, look, you can pop the front off of it, and here's a port you can get into right here. That's easy. All kinds of stuff that you could certainly do within 6 minutes behind a curtain, much less if you had extra time, because any of these were connected to the web, as we discovered a couple of days before. So many of them.
And with AI these days, you'd think you'd be able to, the machines would automatically be able to tell if it was identical ballots and all that. If we had paper ballots,
This ImageCast Evolution voting machine has the physical ability to mark votes onto the ballot after the last time the voter sees the ballot. And that's a disaster.
The ballot then gets fed into the tabulator.
It means they can add votes.
And it's fed into the same slot, correct? Selena, it's fed into the same slot. And it actually votes the ballot. And it reverses it, so you can check to see that it voted correctly. And I took a picture of one of these. And on there, it looks like it was hand filled in. It's not computer generated. Computer generated is a perfect oval filled in. Instead, it in their software, they've, for some reason, purposely made it so that it doesn't look like it was computer generated. Okay, then you turn around and you feed that ballot back in, and now it tabulates that ballot. I have a huge problem with that. Having a tabulator that can modify a vote
Okay, now in this case, it's great. I mean, I don't have a problem with people with disabilities voting. I want them to be able to vote, okay? I want to do everything possible to make it easy for them to vote.
Sure.
But not with this mechanism. A tabulator should never, ever be able to vote a ballot, okay? And these tabulators that you're using today can, okay? That's a problem, and here's why. Everything's in this, I'm not saying it's occurring, I'm saying as a bad guy, I love it because all I got to do is change the logic slightly, and I put in a voted ballot, and I see that, didn't mean to wake you up, Robin. I see that the machine sees that I didn't vote on some down ballot race. So it votes for me. It reverses the ballot. And what do we do when it reverses? We just feed it back in. Now, what I need to tell you, because of my travels, that we saw something very unusual occurring across the country that is out of spec. In Georgia, the reversal rate on the tabulators was between 15 and 20%. And I said, what did you do? Well, we just feed it a second time and then it takes it. Sometimes we have to feed it a third time and it takes it, but it always takes it. So you got to stop and say, what's going on here? Why is the tabulator reversing the ballot in the first place and then it takes it on the second or third try?
Are you talking about when they're using the ATI for it?
No.
So are you talking about if it's undervoted?
A normal ballot, no indication, no undervote, no problem. It reverses the ballot.
Residents in Westchester County, New York were recently surprised to find out that their county was about to purchase these machines.
I've lived in Westchester County for almost 30 years. I'm involved with several groups. We've been involved with elections. I only heard about this in the last few days.
I'm from Citizens for Voting Integrity, New York. None of us were notified. We're very concerned. We've heard reports questioning whether there's a design flaw, a serious design flaw. So we're here hoping that they don't buy these machines.
It doesn't produce a reputable paper trail, and therefore, if there was ever an audit or a recount, it wouldn't be reliable.
It's just so dismaying. I feel like at every level, our elections are under attack.
And they are concerned that the county, which is in debt, cannot afford the $6 million price tag.
The county has a budget deficit, and we can ill afford to waste a penny.
Catherine Parker, one of the Westchester County legislators who will have to decide whether or not to vote for the purchase of the machines, is worried about their security.
I think that it's possible that somewhere in this country, at some point in time, somebody was elected that didn't really have the votes cast.
But Parker is a legislator, and the legislators are being asked by their election commissioners to buy the ice machines. Democratic Election Commissioner Reginald Lafayette was not interested in investigating the issue further.
Is that a surprise? A Democrat not interested?
Have the luxury
Investigating?
of saying to you the machine is safe, can't tap into this machine, and like the problem you just brought up is not a problem.
And in an article with the local journal News, fellow election commissioner Douglas Colty called the machines virtually unhackable because, he said, the voting machines in New York State have no access to the internet whatsoever.
This is a common myth among election officials.
Rich DeMillo is a professor of computing and former dean at the Georgia Institute of Technology.
There are many attacks on computer systems that have nothing to do with being connected to the internet.
The machine has a USB port, which is a known attack vector.
USB drives, these thumb drives that go from machine to machine, are in fact information pathways to carry malware from one machine to the other.
Dominion released a statement saying, in part, there is no way for the ballot marking device to make additional marks on the ballot.
Dominion's statement worried me because it really conveyed a lack of understanding of what the problem was. Once you have the design flaw, it's nearly impossible to mitigate it. You would have to redesign the hardware.
DeMillo and DePel may be nationally recognized election security experts, but the commissioner who challenged their conclusions has something going for him that they do not. In addition to being the election commissioner, Lafayette is the chair of the Democratic Party. The same is true for his counterpart, the Westchester County Republican
Gregory, do you have
election
any plans
commissioner
of being
Douglas
on
Pulte,
tomorrow?
who is the chair of the Republican Party
Gregory, do you have any plans to be on tomorrow?
in that county. Any legislator who voted against the wishes of these two men could risk losing party support in their next election. It's a situation that has raised questions previously. In 2015, Blair Horner, the legislative director of the Watchdog New York Public Interest Research Group, said, "It's shocking. What you're talking about is sort of the party control of elections on steroids." I'm here at the Westchester Independent Living Center, a resource for people with disabilities. So the Dominion ICE voting machine has a design flaw so serious that election security experts said you cannot be confident in the results of an election held on this machine. But it was being moved forward here in Westchester County by the Board of Elections as a machine that the disabled community was supporting.
Remember why these machines are there. It's for the handicapped community.
Well, it turns out the disability community doesn't like this machine either.
We did not support the machine. We were not given an opportunity to test the machine. So that's what I want to talk about, okay?
I don't know who those individuals are that support.
Some of it, I wonder also, is if they're getting kickbacks for using their machines, and these politicians are getting money back for them putting them in. And it all goes back to Venezuela and Maduro.
In that machine, because it certainly has not been our organization, and we are a well-established disability organization in this county for 38 years.
Those few people that were allowed to test it did not give it a thumbs up. They did not test well.
At the fundamental core of it, it's a design problem. If what's being described is accurate, the Dominion will create much longer lines.
Gregory. Westchester Independent Living Center is not alone in its opposition to the ICE machine. 5 separate New York disability advocacy groups have come out against it, including Disabled on the Move, which said in an email, "We are not advocating for its purchase in Westchester."
I'm absolutely stunned. That was not what we heard.
Election commissioners indicated that the new ICE voting machine was necessary to meet the demands of early voting.
This machine will, we feel, will accommodate and operate a lot faster, particularly with this early voting.
There's a way that they could implement early voting using their existing voting machines.
So the new machines are not needed for early voting. They do not satisfy the needs of the disabled community. They've been declared vulnerable to hacking by election security experts, and the projected cost is $6 million. That leaves residents wondering if someone other than the public is benefiting from this deal. In a statement, Joe Bravo, the executive director of Westchester Independent Living Center, said, "The whole idea of how these decisions are made is really a mystery and a question."
The process is very opaque. I wonder if they're too persuaded by the manufacturer, Dominion.
Election commissioners in Westchester County declined to be interviewed for this report. The New York Dominion sales rep did not respond to emails or calls.
Mr. Apple, we give him a lot of credit. All of a sudden, we call Professor and Princeton, or we're supposed to believe this guy. What you really have here is a guy walking in, and he goes past security into a locked room, and he grabs a hold of the computer physically, and he goes into a corner someplace, to not be disturbed for 5 or 6 hours, as he grabs his screwdriver, unscrews the machine, fiddles with his machine, comes back, he's, I got my thing in it, it's in there now. It can't be done.
It can be done by a thumb drive. You're lying.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to remind everyone what happened yesterday as it relates to the actual fact pattern of law. And a warrant was issued by a magistrate judge based on probable cause after evidence was submitted. Not a Trump-appointed judge, a magistrate judge.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
That is the way
I only got one more video.
that the law enforcement process works in America. But we have heard repeatedly
There's a lot on this information.
that everything was perfect with 2020. In fact, I think we probably at this point could trademark the most secure election in American history. What qualifications we use to measure that, I have no idea. But let's go back to what actually happened in 2020 if we're going to have the conversation. Drop boxes invented out of thin air, nowhere in Georgia law. Mobile voting units moving through Fulton County to 80% Democrat precincts, 81% Democrat precincts to be precise. Nowhere envisioned in Georgia law. 6.8 million absentee ballot request forms with a first-class stamp sent to every registered voter in the state of Georgia. Nowhere envisioned in Georgia law. If you count the same ballots 3 times, in theory, you should get numbers that match. But that didn't happen either. Let's talk about the recount that happened. 3,930 double-scanned ballots in Fulton County alone. Thousands of those have been confirmed by the state election board. Governor Kemp actually raised the concerns of the Moncla-Rossi report, and we now know that there were double-scanned ballots. But even after the ballots were double-scanned in Fulton County, did the numbers match on the second recount? Nope. They were still off by 850 ballots. Not one person here can answer the question of how that happened, and that is a legitimate question. We know that ballot images were deleted. We know that test ballots were included in the recount process, and we have that confirmed. But I want to take just a minute and talk about what the Democrats did in response to legitimate questions over the 2020 election. A former constituent of mine, Derek Somerville, former FBI agent, ran data analysis along with another gentleman named Mark Davis. And remember the 6.8 million absentee ballot request forms that were sent out? They had a first-class stamp. So that means if you filed the national change of address form, that was automatically forwarded to your new address. And they identified reasonable cause to question the validity of 39,141 of those ballots that were cast. They knew that 160 people had been registered to vote from a single UPS store. 2,138 people had been registered to vote from one church in Fulton County. 1,391 had been registered to vote from a shuttered 1,000 square foot building in Fulton County. Unless you think Fulton County has cleaned up their voter rolls.
That's the size of a small ranch. Over 1,000 people?
Today, thousands of people are registered to vote in Fulton County at UPS stores, storage units, pack mails, homeless shelters that haven't been open for over 5 years. The Fulton County voter rolls have been and continue to be a mess. But when Derek Somerville and Mark Davis followed the law and filed objections to those voters, what did the Democrats do? Well, Stacey Abrams sued them in federal court. And they won. Not Stacey Abrams, but Somerville and Davis won. Judge Jones, not a Republican judge, ruled in their favor. What have we learned since then about those 39,000 voters? 12,000 of them have been removed from the voter rolls because Somerville and Davis were correct that they were no longer eligible to vote. 9,500 have updated their address to a new address outside of Fulton County, proving once again that Somerville and Davis were correct and those people were ineligible to vote. Ultimately, 84% of the votes of the eligibility that Somerville and Davis challenged were proven to have been invalid voters in the 2020 election. So let's stop this charade of the most perfect, most secure election in history. But more importantly, and I would agree with my colleagues on this, let's look forward to the future elections, and it's darn near past time for Fulton County to clean up their voter rolls.
And then some, long past. Do you think they'll do not much about it? I'll find another way around it probably. All right, I'm going to end with this video. Here we go.
Massive evidence against Dominion voting software and its company. Ties are being revealed. According to this tweet, Dominion apparently...
I wonder if they're going to take this down on me, this video.
...deleted 2.7 million votes nationwide from Trump. On November 11th, an individual by the handle of Truman Black wrote a script that exposes the voting switches from Trump to Biden. This gained many news outlets' attention. He posted an entire list of all the states who employ the Dominion system. In total, about 500,000 votes were taken from Trump and switched to Biden. Keep in mind, these calculations are not yet verified. However, he did obtain the data from Edison Research, which is used by at least ABC, CBS, CNN, and NBC News, among others. From there, the company's background and strong ties to the Democratic Party was exposed through various media reports. Now, more than one internal employee has come out to expose the voter fraud scheme. Dominion released a statement stating that they have no ties to any Democratic Party senior levels, or that they were involved in any voting fraud. But are they really that innocent? Let's take a look at what their first ties is, which is to the Democratic Party.
Are you going to be live on here on Rumble, Gregory? I don't seem to have your link for your page. What name do you go by?
According to the different sources, the company is heavily involved with Nancy Pelosi, former President Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton.
Let me know one way or
During an
another.
interview with Trump lawyer Sidney Powell, Fox News host Maria Bartiromo mentioned that she had seen reports that California Senator Dianne Feinstein's husband, Richard Bloom, is a key shareholder, and Nancy Pelosi's longtime chief of staff are key executives of Dominion voting system. They were also reported in 2019 by Bloomberg Government, a news website in April. Bloomberg Government said that the Pelosi's former chief of staff, Nadeem Al-Shami, is one of the lobbyists in Dominion. Al-Shami is from a lobbying firm called Brunstein, Farber, Hyatt, Schreck. Now, the ties with Barack Obama is a lot more complicated. According to Dominion's website, in July of 2018, a company called Staple Street Capitals, SSC, which is a private equity firm, acquired Dominion Voting. On SSC's website, one of their shareholders has a key name, William Kennard. Kennard was the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC chair during Clinton's era. He was also the U.S. ambassador to EU during Obama's era. He was also a policy advisor for the former Secretary of State John Kerry, and the Carlyle Group's managing director, another private equity firm. Even now, Kennard is still a member of the executive board at AT&T and Ford, and AT&T owns CNN. So Kennard is involved in media, business, and politics, who has important relationships with the higher-ups of the members of the Democratic Party. Now, with Clinton, the Dominion ties don't end there. According to OAN, Dominion's communication manager, Penelope Chester Starr, used to work in the Clinton's foundation. She also was the vice president of Teneo. So Teneo is a company that one of their main duty is organizing Hillary Clinton's overseas ventures, including organizing her speeches and such. On Clinton Foundation's website, as early as 2014, Dominion promised to give money to one of the foundation's plans. And that plan was to provide newly formed democratic societies around the world voting machines and voting technologies. Dominion's ties to Democrats are also reflected in its employees' donations to the party. According to conservative media, the National Pulse, 96% of its employees' contribution goes to Democrat candidates. These employees are involved in the entire process of software development, web engineering, production, and management. Whereas in the last 6 years, Dominion has only provided Republican candidates a total of $86.25. Now compare this to Twitter and Facebook, where the Media Research Center reported their donations to the Democratic Party being 98.99% and 91.68%.
This doesn't pop
respectively.
up for me.
Just as this alone, we see a deep connection. Now, the second tie are with the Chinese Communist Party. This January, the CEO and co-founder of Dominion, John Poulos, said during his statement to Congress, and admitting that their products included parts from China, including LCD touchscreens, control boards, and AI processors, and more, because the U.S. did not choose to produce these things. In December of 2019, supply chain surveillance company Interos published a report indicating that the current voting system used in the U.S., 1/5 of its parts come from Chinese suppliers. In Dominion systems, about 59% of the parts come from companies that have businesses in Russia and in China. In fact, the law firm that stopped representing Trump in his legal battle in Pennsylvania's voter fraud situation, Porter Wright, had a lawyer by the name of Sunny Young, who worked at the Pennsylvania office. She said in her bio that she represents the Chinese entities in U.S. businesses. Young also spoke at many CCP-related law events in China and was praised for her efforts by the government. The firm also appears to have helped facilitate and outsource jobs to China by representing a U.S. company in negotiating certain investment agreements and supplier agreements with Chinese manufacturers. So they would represent Chinese companies and not represent President Trump. On that note, Trump revealed on Thursday that they're banning any American companies from investing in Chinese companies with ties to the military of China. According to this order, starting on January 11th of 2021, American investors can no longer purchase stocks from at least 31 Chinese companies. These companies were monitored earlier this year by the Defense Department as the CCP military supported companies. What does this list of 31 companies entail? China Telecom, China Mobile, Huawei, Huaycong, China Air Industry, China Railroad Construction Corporation, China Ship Corporation, Panda Tech, and so forth. So, because if you want to be successful to run your business in China, you need connections in the military. Now let's go back to what it means to have ties with the Dominion voting company. There is a defect in the system of the Dominion software. Trump's lawyer Powell thinks that the defect was intentional because they have parts from China. And the CCP has the strongest evidence to interfere with American elections. There's a possibility that there's ties to sway the U.S. election. Now, the third point is that we are all curious about voting frauds taking place in the Dominion system, which was revealed by whistleblowers and many calculations from experts. Melissa Carone, a contracted worker at the company, came out and said that she was sent to Detroit to provide tech support for the systems. What she saw was a large number of poll walkers would repeatedly scan the same ballots 4 or 5 times. And she also saw workers fill in ballots and make fake signatures. When Carone told her superior, the response was that it was not our duty to watch poll workers, but to provide tech support. We had previously mentioned that Dr. Shiva Ayadurai, who worked on investigating ballot switches in Michigan, found a huge number of ballots switched from Trump to Biden. Sidney Powell actually thinks that voting fraud did not just happen with this election. She thinks that in 2016, Bernie Sanders lost the election to Hillary Clinton may possibly be due to internal fraud. Is there any truth to her thinking?
Not that I think there is.
In fact, on the Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren's website, she and other federal lawmakers had investigated vulnerabilities in voting systems, including Dominion back in 2019. According to their finding, the companies making vote machines have long skimped on security and in favor of convenience. According to another Democrat, former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, said during his Newsmax interview that fraudulent voting has occurred in Democrat-controlled cities for a very long time. When he tried to change it, he got removed from power. He said that this is a large systemic cheating scheme. If you thought that it was hard to believe there has been such a large fraud that took place this year, it is because they have never been caught doing it for so long. This election, they thought with just software cheating that they could have beaten Trump. But little did they realize how many votes Trump would receive on election day. The gain was such a large lead that just voting fraud softwares couldn't cover it. So they had to stop counting ballots after midnight in many states so that they could bring in large amounts of mail-in ballots to cover the difference between Trump and Biden.
Yep. All right, we'll leave it there. I know I kept you guys quite a long time. All right, I should be on at 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. All right, God bless. Take care, everyone. Stay out of the snow. Bye-bye.